Okay. I'd like to call this town of Plymouth public hearing meeting to order. This is September 3rd, 6:09 here in the community room of Plymouth Town Hall. Please stand for the pledge. Okay. Item 4, to consider and recommend public comment on the following resolution entitled Resolution appropriating $20,090,786 for the planning, design, construction, development, equipping, and furnishing of a new Plymouth Police Department facility and authorizing the issuance of $20,090,786 bonds of the town to meet said appropriation and pending the issuance thereof, making of temporary borrowings for such purpose, and a resolution appropriating $6 million for the planning, design, engineering, construction, and reconstruction of various roads and town bridge improvements, and authorizing the issuance of $6 million bonds of the town to meet said appropriations and pending the issuance thereof in the making of temporary borrowings for such purpose. So we have a little presentation to show the public before we get to public comment, and we will start with Chairman Mike Audette of the Plymouth Municipal Facilities Ad Hoc Committee. Mr. Chairman, I will turn the meeting over to you if you'd like to introduce members of your committee who are here, and
Sure.
the meeting is yours, sir. Thank you.
Well, thank you for coming out, everyone. Thank you for coming out, everyone, because we asked for this and we asked for the notices to go out so that you would have opportunities to see.
Hold on 1 second. Carl, can you go just lock those lights?
You can't lock.
This is like strobing. It is helping my nerves, though. I'll keep talking. Hopefully we'll get the lights straightened out. But we wanted to give you an opportunity to see see the work that we've done over the past 6 years. And I say that, and there's sometimes I feel my voice sounds frustrated a little bit. It's because we've been on this journey for 6 years. And hopefully, one way or the other, we're gonna come to a resolution of our police facility. Before I start, I'd like to introduce the members of my committee. Obviously, Anne Marie Rold is my vice chairman. I have Joe Carey that was on the committee. I don't know if Mark Sikorsky is in the audience. Mark Sikorsky was on our committee. Officer Chris Latimer. We were hoping he could be here tonight. I don't see him.
There is a structure fire on Carter Road. I don't know if he's there, but let's all pray for our firemen and that are down there, and obviously any families affected by the structure fire ongoing. Sorry, wanted to just point that out.
And also Detective Cesar Barrios was also on our committee. And again, we've been meeting for 6 years. I've taken over the chairmanship of the committee after Victor Mitchell, who was our chairman for the first 4 years of this committee, resigned for personal reasons. So what I'd like to do tonight is just go through the work that we've done, explain to you how we came up with the proposal that we have, and then answer any questions that you have. We want you to at least to be well informed. And so you can make a better decision if and when this proposal goes to referendum. So with that, I'd like to start with just a little bit of background that we did when we started as a committee. Hopefully
Hold on, you gotta turn it on for it to work.
There you
Yay.
go.
Okay, so I'm gonna go through the introduction and a lot of the background. I'm gonna be honest with you, what I'm surprised at is that the first time our town looked into the possibility of building a police facility was back in 1986. They had hired at that time all our associates, architects, and developed a plan at that time. No action was taken. Just as an aside, in 1986, I was 34. I'm now 73, and we're still talking about this. This isn't a new issue. It's just that I think one way or the other, we want to try to come to a resolution. There was another study done in 1998, and that recommended a facility of approximately 11,900 square feet. Again, it didn't go to any type of action. It didn't go to a referendum, or I would be standing here. In 2014, there was a study done of the Main Street school across the street with the possibility of renovating half of that and turning that into a police facility. But again, that proposal didn't go forward either. So that brings us to March 9th, 2019. Mayor Merchant at the time contacted myself and some other people and asked if we would be, the committee that I mentioned, would be willing to work on a committee to try to come up with a resolution, a proposal for a new police facility. And so that's kind of when my involvement got started back in March of 2019. In 2020, we hired
Hang on one second. Jamie.
Yeah.
We're supposed to move this.
Oh, okay.
yeah, we're waiting
Yeah, sorry.
sorry,
I got it.
but in 2020, we hired the firm of Jakinski and Holmes, and they were the ones that came up with the
You
current.
guys see that?
We're gonna get.
Yes. I know you guys can't see in there.
It's not clicking on your computers. That's not supposed to be moving on the computer.
No, you gotta click it yourself.
Oh. Tell me that.
Sorry. That's not tied to my computer is not tied to that.
All right, I'm just gonna look this way. So we hired the firm of Jakinski and Humes in 2020 to work with us in developing the proposal that we're sharing with you this evening. We worked with them from May 2020 to November 2023. We continued to have our meetings, and the mayor's office and state elected officials tried to seek state funding to ease the burden of whatever proposal or bond package we may go for. In December of 2023, the mayor and council repurposed the building committee as the building municipal facilities ad hoc committee. Sorry, it's a lot of words. At that time, at that time, we hired Fire Associates and did a town hall study. That was also the time that there was talk in the town of the Board of Ed possibly closing Fisher School. So we were looking into the possibility, we hired Fire Associates to look into the possibility of renovating Fisher School and then maybe doing some renovations here and moving the offices, the town offices and the police facility to Fisher School. But then we got word from the school board that they weren't planning to close the school. So we had Fire Associates do a study of this town hall, and if we wanted to renovate this entire downstairs, so if we moved the police facility out of this building and did a complete renovation down here, we're still looking at a bill just for this at between $4 and $6 million just to renovate that. So we get to go to the next one. So we sent a letter to the mayor saying our recommendation would not be to renovate this, but that if we can build a new police facility, then we could repurpose the space down here and then maybe in the future do renovations a little at a time. And so that brings us now, we're still, but in the meantime, our original proposal back in 2020 is still kind of sitting on the town council and mayor's office without action. So the proposal that I'm sharing with you this evening is the exact same proposal that we did in 2020. And then we're at the point now where we'll go over the difference in cost, but now, and this brings us to now that we have the public hearing for you to answer to ask us any questions that we have for you. And then obviously we're hoping to go to a referendum where a decision can be made one way or the other.
All right.
And that's just a summary of kind of what I tried to quickly go through with you. And if I'm going too fast, just let me know. But again, like I said, I was 34 years old when they first talked about looking at doing a police facility. So just as some asides, you know, if we knew back then that it was inadequate, I want you to start to think about what was times like in 1986. That was before we had the epidemic of mass shootings and school shootings. I was a school principal, and I can tell you that kind of stress that we lived under. That was before the opioid crisis, before 9/11. Do you think policing has changed since 1986? And you know, what we ask of our police officers is so much more than what we asked of them in 1986. Now, I'm not saying you have to vote for this, but my point is that we have a facility now that we know was inadequate 40 years ago. Whether you agree with the proposal that we have for you tonight or not, we have to do something. I don't think we can continue to push this down the road because it just becomes more expensive. And we still have a potential for something terrible to happen down there because it's just not safe. Go to the next one. So why do we need a new police facility? I want to just give you an aside, and I'll be honest with you, there's something that came to me that worries me. One of the most dangerous aspects we have with our police facility, sorry, my throat's getting so dry, is the Sally Port. Now, I don't know if you know what a Sally Port is. If the police have to pick up an individual and bring them to the station for questioning, they drive into what looks like a garage, but it's not a garage. Our Sally Port's about the size, oh, thanks. Our Sally Port is about the size of a one-car garage. If that individual is under the influence of drugs or alcohol and is belligerent, the police officers have to safely get him out of that vehicle into a secure area here so they can question you. It is just a situation that is ripe for somebody to get hurt. If someone gets hurt in this litigious society we have, someone's going to file suit. And if they file suit, the question will come, did you know that facility was not safe? Are we negligent because we have a facility that we know that's not safe? We've known it for 40 years. So I worry about the town becoming, being responsible for something. I think a lawsuit like that could bankrupt us. And, I'm not saying something that's going to happen, but the potential is there. So again, we have to do something. So the current police facility is about 2,800 square feet. It was built in 1973, part of this building. I think of the 28, that's usable space.
That's usable space.
So that's just usable space. I think my house is larger than that. I have a very small, very reasonable, small house up on Burger Road. That's 1973, there were 7 full-time police officers and personnel. We're up to, and then there are 19 part-time. Now we're up to 24 sworn personnel and 5 civilian personnel. So the department has grown, but the facility hasn't. There's no public, there's no public interview permitting rooms, no public bathroom in the main lobby. The main lobby is used to conduct interviews and other business with no privacy. We're supposed to have a private secure area for attorneys to talk to their clients. We don't have that. There's the male and female detention cells are not separated. So one of the officers was explaining to me, if they have a domestic situation and they have a husband and wife who are arguing, they have to put them in a cell next to each other. Not an ideal situation. So we really need to have cells that are separate. And we also have to have cells that are separate for juveniles. We cannot hold them in the same area that we hold adults. I'm just going to go through this quickly. There's no sterile evidence processing area, no training or roll call room, no conference meeting room, no female locker room within the police department, no separate firearms cleaning area. There's no separate evidence storage. No, the Sally Port, as I explained, was too small. And there's inadequate office desk space for the staff, and there's no kitchen or separate break area. No covered police vehicle parking, limited storage throughout the entire police department for all functions. Another one?
Nope, that's it.
That's it. So, and I'm sorry to go so fast. I'm trying to give you just a picture of what the current conditions are. And so, we hired Jakinski and Holmes. They worked with us. We can keep going. Does it go? So we developed a building that would be, we came up with a proposal of a building would be 16,000 gross square feet, 12,390 usable square feet.
Can you answer the difference between that question that was a question that was sent?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. So the usable space would be minus the four corners, hallways, walls. So it would be the actual space that is used for the police operations. We also included a 2,500 square foot carport and a storage processing outbuilding. Same thing. There were 1,800 square feet, but 1,400 of it, obviously minus the walls and other, gets it down to the actual usable space of 1,400. It also would have dedicated office spaces for the staff, sergeants and detectives, mandated prisoner holding cells for adults and juveniles, limited access evidence processing and storage, 2-bay drive-through Sally Port. I do want to make a point though, is that we did reduce this We did reduce the scope of the project once already. The original proposal was for 21,000 square feet. We reduced that by 5,000 square feet. So our feeling from the committee is that the 16,000 square foot building is not too big, but would fit the needs of our police department for many years going into the future. The main lobby would have public restrooms. There'd be interview rooms, dedicated record storage area, conference and meeting rooms, covered patrol vehicle parking, patrol roll call training and classroom, weapons armory, data equipment room, male and female locker rooms, physical training room. And that's it. So that's the facility. And again, the facility, we feel that the proposal we gave to the town council and the mayor fits our needs, but is not too extravagant. Again, we reduced the size already by 5,000 square feet. And that's the proposal that has been sitting, that we put together almost 6 years ago. What's that?
Go through the storage outbuilding.
Oh, and the storage outbuilding, again, that would be for bulk evidence storage. And there'd be unit heaters with vehicle exhaust, equipment storage bays, and found property storage. Is that it?
And I'll go through the next.
So that's in a nutshell, and again, I apologize if I'm going too fast. But we will answer any of your and all of your questions at the end of the presentation. If she can, if she wants to.
Chief, are you here? Are you out in the hallway? I think now would be a good time for you to come in and talk a little bit more because Sergeant Latimer is not available right now. Sergeant Latimer was going to be speaking a little more in depth about all of the deficiencies that you see in the police department right now. These officers live it every day. They are the best people that can speak on the subject. We can talk in bullet points very quickly, but they are the ones that experience it every day. And our chief, Karen Krasicki, is very well versed in the deficiencies, and she will tell you why.
I happen to have the document he was gonna read, just in case it's about here. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We take
You
here.
gotta go right up.
How about now? Yes, okay.
You gotta go right up to it.
Thank you for attending. Sergeant Latimer, as you can see, is out there working. They had a structure fire and, I'm gonna read this in his place. This is something he was going to read to you, and then I'll add my own comment at the end. The town of Plymouth urgently needs a new police facility. The current building no longer provides the necessary space, security, or resources to support the department's daily operations.
Sorry.
I could probably yell without it.
Yeah, I want everybody.
Training and community engagement. It's crucial that we act now to meet the increasing demands of public safety and modern policing. Inability to adhere to laws requiring the separation of juveniles from adult detainees by sight and sound. Failure to maintain state mandated minimum temperatures in the holding areas. Sometimes the holding areas, I'm just gonna add into that, get extremely hot or extremely cold, and we are responsible for those prisoners when they're in there. So if they get overheated or they get cold, that could also draw a lawsuit for the town. Lack of ADA compliant holding cells creates accessibility and legal concerns. Facility limitations that prevent compliance with HB 6004 accreditation standards and other professional requirements. House Bill 6004, the Police Accountability and Transparency Bill, came out in 2020. We have mandated state laws that we have to follow. Right now, our facility does not meet some of those laws, and we are in the process of accreditation. Accreditation is meeting certain standards and being in compliance, and that has also become a state law. The way our facility is set up right now, we are not going to meet some of those accreditation standards, which is state law. Outdated design that does not support modern evidence storage technology or officer safety. Poor working conditions that negatively impact wellness, morale, and retention. And it's getting dark here. Okay. Contributing to turnover time at a time that recruitment is already challenging. This puts added strain on officers who, in a smaller municipality like Plymouth, must investigate cases from start to finish without the specialized resources or divisions available in larger departments. Adequate facilities, technology, and workspace are even more crucial, and the current limitations significantly impact their work and well-being. Our town, like I said, okay, now this is where I talk and I stop reading. Our town and our offices, unlike the department I came from, which was the Bridgeport Police Department, the patrol officers handled initial calls. But then something went to the detective bureau, the traffic division, narcotics and vice. Our officers handle calls start to finish. So there are times they have to be in here for hours, doing a report, conducting an investigation, doing a warrant, search warrant, an arrest warrant, and they're in here for hours. If the, space is cluttered, if the temperature is too hot or too cold, they wear bulletproof vests. So again, they also can be overheated or be too cold or too hot. But again, they work hard, they're here, and they have to do this. It's mandated by state law. Okay, let me go back to this, the lights on before it goes out again. Each of these issues presents serious risk of legal challenges, financial penalties, and loss of accreditation, while also undermining the town's ability to attract and retain quality officers. The result is increased stress on staff, reduced efficiency, and a growing challenge in maintaining the high standards of service that residents, all of you, expect. Addressing these issues through a new police facility will improve our officers' working conditions and save the town from potential financial and legal burdens, as Mr. Audette was telling you. A modern police facility will address these deficiencies and significantly improve officer wellness and effectiveness. The new facility will provide a safe, functional, and professional work environment by ensuring compliance with state and federal law, supporting the accreditation process and reducing liability exposure. This, in turn, will promote staff retention and enhance community engagement, fostering a sense of hope for the future and ensuring a safer and more secure environment for all residents. Investing in this project is an investment in Plymouth's safety, trust, and future. It is a necessary step in protecting the town from mounting legal, financial, staffing, and regulatory risks. A modern police facility will benefit the officers and the community, ensuring a safer and more secure environment for all residents. However, the longer we wait, the higher the price for the facility that will be here long after any of us are not goes up. Let's get it done right the first time by planning for the future rather than living in the past, which will result in the need for expansion down the road. We need your support to make this reality. And I say that we really, truly need your support. Lastly, North Bradford was in our shoes not too long ago. Upon their residents passing a referendum like we are asking of the residents, federal and state funding became available, significantly lowering the town's responsibility. So a new facility is going to open up the town to additional grants and funding. At the conclusion of this meeting or at any time thereafter, we extend an open invitation 24/7 to anyone who would like to tour the department. The only exception, of course, is if we have a prisoner and, we can't let you in at that time. Okay, that was Sergeant Latimer's statement. He is on the committee. He is also a town resident. And several studies have been done. They started in 1986. There was another one done in 1998. The bottom line of those studies was that the police department is shoehorned into the basement of the town hall, which we are. We have no space available. I welcome any of you to come over. Look at my office. I am the chief of police, but it is not about me. Other chiefs say to me, why do you stay there when you have to be in an office like you are? I said, because I love the community. I am a public servant and I serve my community and I love my community and I love the officers I work with. It's not about me. But in my office, just speaking for myself, the two evidence rooms that we have, other than the Sally Port, where we do have to store some evidence, my two closets are now evidence rooms because there is no room to store anything. Some years back, with domestic violence, risk protection orders came out. We have to take, when there's a domestic violence incident, someone is arrested, we have to take all their weapons. We are running out of space. And in some instances, we have to keep those weapons for years and years and years. We have to do that. That is state law. We have no room for them. But again, my closets were filled. March 17, 2017, we had a major drug bust in the town of Plymouth. Yes, unfortunately, there are drugs in this town. And 232 pounds of marijuana were secured in the evidence room in my closet. For months and months and months, I would come in, I'd be sick to my stomach. I would have a headache because of the smell of the marijuana, although it was packaged. And I took that for the team. I took that for you. I took that for the officers because it was awful. It was a terrible smell, but it had to be stored in evidence until it can be destroyed. We're not asking for anything more than the officers deserve. They work 24/7, 365 days a year for you. On Christmas morning, when their children are open their presents, they're working for you. During a hurricane, a blizzard, you're safely in your homes. They're out here working for you. We would just like to have a facility that they deserve. They work hard, they're dedicated, they're caring. They've made some terrific arrests in this town so you'll be safer. So at night when you're sleeping, you know they're out there, they're patrolling the streets while you're resting. On holidays when you're enjoying your family and they're not, they're out there patrolling for you. But a lot of it is not just for what they deserve. And like I said, it is about them. It's because we have been, state law has been put upon us through this process of accreditation. We have to meet those standards. So whatever support you can give us, we truly implore that you please consider, going along with this, voting yes for this, because we truly need this. The officers are a credit to your community. And, whatever we can do to serve you, we're here 24/7. And please, if anybody wants to come through after the meeting, please come through. You could start with my office and you'll probably walk out with your jaw dropped. But like I said, it is not about me. I love this community. I love my officers, but your officers deserve better than what they have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, short people can't really use that very well. Give me 1 second here, to get my stuff together. So we're going to talk a little bit more about what the building committee has done from the start back in 2019. When we were put together by the former mayor Merchant, he asked us to come up with a plan, as Chairperson Audette mentioned. One of those things was to come up with a suitable site for a police department. Where can we do this in town? Now, remember, this is 6 years ago. Locations have changed. The makeup of the town has changed a little bit since then. But these are still potential sites and options that the committee discussed. Please understand that we don't have and here comes Sergeant Latimer right as we're done with his part. Excellent job. Please understand that we had a limited amount of money to spend on a facilities assessment. So we had to narrow down our choices because we could not study an endless array of locations. We couldn't spend the money. Each study that we do is probably somewhere between $20,000 and $25,000. So please keep that in mind. We try to narrow the location down and then do the study, do the space needs, and then do the feasibility study. So the potential sites that we talked about land on the corner of North Harrington Avenue and Preston Road. That's privately owned land. It appears as it's part of the industrial park. However, it is not. It is on the right at the four corners as you're going up North Harrington Ave. Our fire chief did state that there were potential water pressure issues up there. Excuse me, we considered the land where the current Dollar General is in Plymouth right now. That is privately owned land. We talked about land that abuts Terryville Fire Department on Harrington Avenue, the land that surrounds that, for a potential combined public safety complex and upgrades to our fire department there also. All of that land surrounding the firehouse is privately owned. Are you catching the theme here? Land on Scott Road that is currently being developed is also privately owned that we discussed. The other question.
Yep.
Why not use an existing building? Chairperson Audette referred to Harry S. Fisher School. The school is occupied. The Board of Education has no current plan to close this school, particularly with the developments that are going in right now. We have not received any further information that they plan to close the school in the near future, in the long future. There's no plan right now for the school to close. We've heard a lot about the Rite Aid building, and our town attorney and our town resident, Mr. Bill Hamsey, is sitting right behind me. That's currently privately owned, and this building and or land is part of the downtown revitalization project that is partially funded through the State of Connecticut Community Investment Fund. You may hear it referred to as SIF. This location is a key element of this plan. When we started this process in 2019, recall, the majority of that facility was occupied. And I'm going to ask Bill to just speak for a minute because I know there are a lot of people that say we should be using this building as a potential police department. We should just renovate that building, but I'm going to ask Bill to kind of address a few things on why this is not an option.
Thanks, Anne Marie. And first of all, thank you everyone for coming out tonight and showing interest in our community, because that's really what this is all about. So as Anne Marie mentioned, I chair the local Community Investment Fund ad hoc committee. We have 6 members. We've been working on putting a plan together for revitalization of our downtown area. To date, we have been awarded almost $2 million from the state. And with that, we are working on developing plans to basically revitalize the entire area of South Main Street and Agnew Avenue. Why are we doing this? We're doing this to, number one, improve our downtown. Because like you, I live in this community. I drive past our downtown every day of the week. And I'm not proud of what it looks like currently. And so what we're doing is trying to be proactive and turn that into something positive, something that is going to produce additional revenue for the town. That's really the ultimate goal. And also to build a place where people can congregate, where we can be proud of a downtown in our community that I think we all want to achieve. So that parcel, the 8 South Main Street parcel, which is the former Rite Aid building, is probably the key parcel to our entire plan. And, hopefully in a short period of time, I think, because it took Bristol 20 years to do their downtown revitalization. We've been at this for about 3. So I think if everything goes according to plan, fingers crossed, we can have something in the next couple of years that we can all be proud of.
Thank you, Bill. To continue on with why not use an existing building, I've heard some comments about let's just buy the Lyceum. The Lyceum is a building that's owned and operated by the Archdiocese of Hartford. There are still events there. There are still breakfasts and etc. there. Prospect Street School. This building in 2019 was already pending sale. So that facility was also off the table for consideration. We've heard comments about there's a lot of vacant buildings in the town. I'm not sure there's a lot of vacant buildings that either the town or are privately owned that are suitable to renovate into a police station for the size of a police station that we need. One of the things that we don't want to do, we don't want to build a new police station or renovate an existing building in a space that's not big enough for the future. We don't want to be back here in 5 years or 10 years asking you to build another police station because we've run out of space. I can tell you that the town of Plainville is in that situation right now. They built a new police station several years ago. They're out of space. And I don't think they built more than 20 years ago. So we want to make sure that we're looking towards the future and making sure we have enough space so that we don't have to come back and that most of us who are in the room are gone by the time they need to rebuild. So now why did we choose the lot behind Town Hall? The biggest reason right now, it's town-owned property. We knew the price of building a new police station was going to be significant. We did not want to add another potential $1 million or more to buy a parcel of property and then build a new building on it. And frankly, there's not a ton of open space in Plymouth or Terryville that we could put a new police station. So we chose the spot behind Town Hall, in part because we already owned it, because of the proximity to the current Town Hall facility. It's right in the back. We would be able to share a parking lot. We wouldn't have to put in a new parking lot, saving some money there. It also has favorable topography. That land is mainly flat and free of conditions that would add significant site costs. Mr. Green actually did a little study for us, I believe. I think he's in the room somewhere. Besides that, Mr. Green, the other Mr. Green, the older Mr. Green. Am I correct that your father did a little study back there pro bono for us to study that site and make sure that it was a suitable location to build, that we wouldn't encounter ledge or anything else that would hinder us from building a new facility there. So now what happens if we don't build a new police facility? I think the chief touched on it a little bit. Without a new police facility, we continue to put our officers and our town at risk. They continue to lose staff regularly because of the terrible conditions that they have to work in every day. People will say, well, they shouldn't be in the police department. They should be out on the road. Yes, for part of the time. We do have staff that are in here all day long. We have clerical staff. We have the chief's administrative assistants. Our detectives are in the office for a significant amount of time. There are people housed here 24/7, as the chief said. Is it going to take a fatality or an injury for the town to provide a safe and adequate working space for our law enforcement personnel? As the chief said, and I'm sure Sergeant Latimer will echo, please take advantage of going on a tour of our facility. Everyone has 2 minutes in their day. I guarantee you that's how long it will take you to walk through the facility. Is not moving forward worth the potential cost of a life of one of our officers or of one of our residents when something catastrophic happens? Please take that into consideration. Now the big piece. What will it cost to build a new police facility? As Michael mentioned, in December 2019, we had our initial draft feasibility study that came out from Jakunski. That was at $16 million. In February of 2020, the committee met. We went through the space needs. We went through the project and we reduced that. We reduced the size and we reduced the cost down to $12,553,000. In May of 2020, we reduced that even further. That's where we proposed, or Humes proposed, cutting out some of the space and adding an outbuilding. The cost to build an outbuilding, which is the building where they would have evidence storage, have some bulk evidence storage, do some vehicle processing, is much lower than building for within the main confines of the building. So that cut out an additional amount of money, almost $1 million out of the proposed cost. Now COVID hits, inflation hits, now the prices start to rise. In April of 2024, we received an updated estimate for one of our grant applications. At that time, we were up to about $16 million. And that was not a very detailed, that just came out of Humes, that they just added an escalator percentage onto that. In December of 24, we asked them to go back again. Downs Construction works with Humes on a regular basis, and they provided revised cost estimates from Downs Construction. They did a little bit more detailed of an analysis. Downs Construction was currently building a new facility in Windsor Locks, and their latest estimate was where we are right now, a little over $20 million. $20 million to build a new police facility?
Healthy active riding season ahead, keeping him looking and feeling his best. So Sam's on a specialized diet.
I'm going to do a little comparison to the town of Windsor Locks.
If everybody could just silence their cell phones, we
Yeah,
would,
thank
we would
you.
appreciate it. Thank you.
I'm going to do a comparison to the town of Windsor Locks. And the reason I'm doing that is because that is the most recent facility in the state of Connecticut that has been built. They just cut the ribbon on their new facility. They actually built 2 buildings. They built a new police station and a new senior center. Downs Construction, who I mentioned was the contractor that did our updated estimate, was the contractor doing the work for the build in Windsor Locks. Why is this important? Because one of our residents asked a question about cost per square foot, and I will get to that in a minute. So Windsor Locks went out in March of 2022 and asked for $15.1 million to build a new police station. Should be plenty. In January of 2024, town manager had to go out and ask for another $3.98 million because of cost escalation. So the total they had approved was $19.13 million. That Build was from February 2024 through August of 2025. I understand that this slide is a little bit small, but that's as much as I could fit on there. And this is a question that came directly from John Murphy, who asked about the square footage. So I'm going to break it down, a comparison between Plymouth and Windsor Locks. So I'm going to start with Windsor Locks. Windsor Locks built a 21,000 square foot facility, including an outbuilding. The costs for their outbuilding are included in the total cost, the total cost per square foot for that main building and the outbuilding. That came in at almost $13.9 million at $649 per square foot. Let's compare that to our estimate on the building construction piece only. Our estimate is $12.9 million for a 16,000 square foot facility. That's $791 per square foot. Keep in mind, Windsor Locks has their outbuilding prices in there also, which kind of brings their square foot number down just a little bit. But there is also cost escalation because we're a year to 2 years later when we're going to go to build. Our outbuilding cost for us is separated, $744,000 at 1,800 square feet, which is $414 per square foot. That's where you can see the differential in price between the full building and the outbuilding, which saves a little bit of money. Windsor Locks doesn't have a carport. We're proposing a carport, $359,000, 2,500 square feet. Why do we need that? Right now, all of our line vehicles, our patrol vehicles, you can see them all parked outright in back. That area back there gets very little sun. In the wintertime, it's a skating rink around those police cars. There's ice, there's snow. They need to be able to get to their cars safely, and a carport will help to keep that out of the elements. Or when it's 100 degrees outside, you get in your cars, a little warm sometimes. Okay. Site cost. Site cost is everything they need to do to prepare the site to be built on. These are very comparable. Windsor Locks was at about $80 a square foot. Plymouth is about $81 a square foot. Soft cost. That's everything within the walls of the building. Furniture, fixtures, chairs, everything else that goes, not just the building construction, finishes, carpeting, correct, Carl, right? That's what soft costs are. Our soft costs, about $2.5 million. This is where we could probably save some money. We don't need to go with high-end finishes. And the estimates we received are not for high-end finishes. They are for middle-of-the-road finishes. This is where, if we need to bring the cost down, we'll have to make the decision of, do we need this, a little more expensive, or can we go with something that's a little less expensive? Windsor Locks, almost $2.7 million, so $126 a square foot, compared to $155 a square foot for the estimate that we received. Contingency built in our estimate right now is $1.6 million. There's no contingency left because Windsor Locks is done. Their project came in $854,000 under budget. You have to go out, when you go out for a referendum, whether you're going to get grants or not, or whether you're going to anticipate coming in under budget, you have to ask for the full ask. Even if we get grants from the state of Connecticut or the federal government, it is required that we go to referendum for the full dollar amount in case those grants don't come through for us. That's why we have to go out for the full asking amount. And here's the question. Have we looked for grants? Absolutely. We've been looking for grants since 2022, when congressionally directed spending came out from the federal government. And in 2022, they were giving money out like water. For some reason, we couldn't get it. Every year since, we've put in an application, either through the mayor's office or through the committee. Last year was the furthest that we got. The senators, our state senators, moved this forward in Washington. However, we did not go to the next round to get that approved. This year, I worked with the senators' offices. They asked us, and I believe last year we had asked for almost $8 million for 45% of the project at the time. This year, when I worked with the senators' offices, they asked me to scale that request back to $1 million. We couldn't even get that. They didn't even move that forward. On a local level, former Mayor Merchant and our current Mayor Kildoff have also been working to get money at the state level, bond funds through the state of Connecticut. They've been working with our senator and our representative to get their assistance to try to push this along. Governor Lamont has come and toured our facility. He recognizes we are the worst facility in the state of Connecticut. He was appalled, correct? Congresswoman Hayes has been here. She has toured the facility also. Everybody acknowledges the need of our police department, but to date, we have not been awarded any state funds. We potentially, though, I can talk to North Branford, which was talked about previously. If this goes to referendum, if this passes, that may unlock additional funds for us. North Branford received $4.5 million from the State Bonding Commission. They also received another $500,000 because they put an emergency operations center in their facility. That was federal funding. So let's say we go to referendum in September. How long is it going to take? So it's going to take 3 months to prepare the bid, get that awarded. Then there's project design work. That's going to take about 6 months. So now we're into June of 2026. Site work and construction should take 14 months. That brings us to August of 2027. Occupancy for our police officers would be sometime around September of 2027. So from right now, even if we approve it right now, we're still talking 2 years before they can get out of the hole they're in right now and get into a new facility. Let's not let another ship sail. We can't change the decisions that were made or in the past or the missed opportunities in the past. People like to talk about Main Street School. We like to talk about why didn't we do this? Why didn't we do this? We can't change the fact. Can't dwell in the past. Let's look towards the future. This is our opportunity to support our law enforcement, not just with a back of the blue sign on your lawn or a blue light on your house. They need our assistance. We don't want to ask, why didn't we in 2 years or 5 years or 10 years and be here again and saying, well, we've known we've needed a new facility for 50 years, but we didn't do anything. I do appreciate the fact that our current council and our mayor have allowed us to be here now. This is the first opportunity we've had for this to truly go to a vote for the public. Our police deserve our support for a new police station. So before we answer the question of how are we going to pay for this, we're going to turn the presentation over to Carl Johnson, our Director of Public Works. He's going to talk about the roads portion. So there's 2 questions, one for the police and one for roads. Carl?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm Carl Johnson, Department of Public Works Director. What we're gonna go over here is what we're gonna do for roads proposed for this bonding package. As you can see, we have 81, I don't know, it's going all by itself.
Can you go back?
Yeah, hold on there. All right, so basically, we're gonna go over what we got.
Carl, just 1 second. Jamie, are you gonna get this up for council? Okay, just hold on 1 second. So, yeah, so council can see this.
Let's keep moving.
Keeps moving.
Yeah, take it off rehearsal. Gotcha. Start from the beginning. Yeah. Okay. Do not use the erasing top.
Slow down.
Huh?
Slow down.
No, I haven't hit anything. Oh, all right, it's doing it now. Did you do that? I'll be a quick presentation. All right, just stay there. Let's see if I can find it. Okay, we have 81.66 miles of 2-lane paved roads in this town. We have a condition pavement study we usually do every every 5 years. The last one we did was last year. It came back saying about 58.4% of all our roads are. I have no idea.
Apologize.
Need substantial and major attention. And we also have 4 dams and 18 bridges that are actually listed with the. Okay, these are the goals: address previous planned roads in very poor condition and prevent treatments on roads to extend service life. Yeah, for some reason you got the rehearsal time and then.
Can we do the PDF?
They're running it off for rehearsal time. All right, I'll make it work. That's not more in the life. Okay, this is sidebar. Sidebar. Okay, just leave it. We'll try to make it work. No, I'm not sure, but I don't have much other choice.
Yeah, open up the PDF, run it off the PDF. So that you can-
Okay. All right. All right, saying we have about 81.5 miles in town. More than half need substantial work. So what are we gonna, thing we started to do is look at roads and see, is we want to try to, instead of just mill and overlaying these roads, is address them so they let, when you mill or overlay a road, where you knock out like 1.5 inches, you grind it off. You throw the milling somewhere in a pile and then you overlay, put another layer of pavement on it. You only get 5 to 7 years. It's just lipstick on a pig. So what we're trying to do is these different larger projects that cost a little more, but you can get up to 20 years if it substantially increases the base and the drainage road. So the bridges, this is a bridge that's been in the works for a long time. This one, South Main Street Bridge, that's over by Woken Road and Greystone and South Main. That's a major artery there. You can order for get the back way around the old Waterbury and get downtown and you get you to Woken and get you down farther down towards Thomaston and Waterbury. There's a pipe that runs under there, it's called a bridge, but they have to replace it with a larger culvert. There's been a lot of washouts and sinkholes there. The state, it's eligible. We have an application that we're putting in, that the state may pay for 50% of this. But like Anne Marie said, we have to put the full amount in because we're not guaranteed even 50%. Todd Road crossing at Todd Hollow. A study was done. The study is done every couple of years on that, but that's an old mill crossing. That bridge crossing there, we're looking at replacing that, and that is about $660,000. So here's South Main Street Bridge. Again, we started a design already. And then Todd Road Bridge, as you can see, this is from the study that was done. And actually, this is from the study that was done back in 88. They just did an updated study, April 23 last year. So this one, this is an important cut across if something happened to Route 6 to try to bypass Route 6 for emergency vehicles if something happens. This one is not eligible for the actual local bridge program that the South Main Street is. But we've been working with the engineers, so since we're not using the state funds for it, we're allowed to do things that the DOT only allows on local bridges. So here's some pictures of Todd Road Bridge. we had to build a turnaround. Been like that for the longest time. So we really try to get that in. Now for the road projects. Can we put that up on the website, the study?
It's there, I'm looking at it.
Okay, we printed up the study, and put it up on the website. That road study is listed as. They do it to a paving condition index, and it's a formula on how much time you have left, basically grades. The pavement roads for an entire street by how long it is, and then it's just like school grades, 90, 50 is failing. So that gives you some idea how much remaining service life these roads have. So if you look on it, it says RSL, that's remaining service life they anticipate. We started working up on the farms there, Plymouth Farms, Plywood Farms, what do you want to call it? Up there off Preston, Fountainhead, Oakdale, Tumblebrook. We gotta add those because we got money with ARPA to start Mountain View and Crestview, which they should be paving Crestview this week or next. So that's gonna get full depth reclamation. This FDR. And then we're putting in curb drains, under drains along the sides to keep the water from infiltrating and creating any voids or heaves in the road and cracking. So in theory, the work we're doing here, creating a better base and drainage, these roads should last a very long time, considering the wet atmosphere, wet environment in that area. These are all, I put this up on Facebook and on website. This is basically where we got our estimates. These are straight from contractors. And that's the price right now. So you'll see we'll have a contingency in the summary because we have no idea what everything's gonna cost next year if this gets all passed. So these are the kinds of road treatments we can do, crack filling and patching, easy. That's for stuff that just started cracking. Chip sealing, again, we covered it and we can get some extra years out of the road if it's not that bad. Mill and overlay, like I said, we take 1.5 inches, we grind it up, and then we just pave what's called tack coat, stick a new coat right on top of it. Newer stuff, well, it's not new, but a lot of people are using it up here more. It's called in place recycling. It's a giant, giant series of equipment, and they basically grind everything up, and then they mix it again with asphalt and tar, and they roll it at the end, so it reclaims it, by the same time adds some material and puts it back down. So, and it's only good for very long roads, you'll see, why we picked North Street. FDR is full depth reclamation. That's where we grind all the way down everything that's there, and we leave it. It recycles the concrete, the asphalt. And then we roll it, and they add a binder, and then they roll over it. So we just added whatever the base was, we just fortified it with more stone underneath. And then full reconstruction, which is totally rebuilding. That'd be some of the larger projects in town. So like I said, chip sealing, it's for water, extends life. You can't use it. What's called spider cracks. You'll see those spider cracks. That's where you got heaving and bake. Those have to be cut out and patched. This is a cast in place recycling zipper. You see by the detail, it's a big long series of equipment. They take one pass, they grind everything up, they mix it again with asphalt and tar, and they roll it. And like I said, you gotta have a straight long run to do it because of all the equipment when they do it. Again, full depth reclamation. This is, like I said, this is environmentally friendly here because, like I said, we're not throwing the millings somewhere. This is reclaiming the millings, crushing it up, packing it down, adding a binder, and then we put a whole new road on top of it. And like I said, with the under drains that we're adding, this is up on Crestview. We're adding these curtain drains, under drains along the road, so any water is channeled to the drainage system, storm drain system, so that the water won't be sitting on the road or infiltrate underneath the road. And hopefully that will make these roads last a lot longer with the compacted base and the 6-inch filter drains stone around them. So the chip sealing program, we try doing a pattern so they can, it's a lot more cost and economical. Altair Ave, Scott Road, Cross Road, Town Hill Road, Magnolia Lane, Noel Drive, South Eagle Road, Washington Road. This whole area up in there, some parts are getting really bad, so there'll be some patching in the proposal. We patch some of these worst spots, cut them out, patch them, and then we do the chip sealing over the whole thing, which would hopefully give us a nice binder coat, give us a couple extra years before we can, we need to totally either remill or rebuild these roads. Preston Road, Bombard Court, Lassie Court, Swickless Court, North Arlington Road, Woodland Road, Minor Road, Sawmill Road, Ferry Road, Whitney Court. And you can see the highlight, those are our GIS maps that we use for estimating. And the SIPR program, like I said, North Street's a very long run. So that'd be a good one for that equipment to go up and re-mill that and re-roll it and all at one time. That way we can keep one lane open while they're doing it. There's Fountainhead, Oakdale and Tumblebrook. And we already started doing Mountain View Road and Crestview. We actually brought we're actually gonna do that section from the end of Crestview down to Preston on Fountainhead when we were doing the estimates. So this is where we come up to 6 million. We put in money for the drainage. You never know you're gonna hit. We put in for new signs, barriers, traffic calming, which we're finding when we fix a road, it turns into the Autobahn. So we've got money in there for some traffic calming measures, markings. And there's a chip seal code in place, and we got an escalation contingency of 15%, which comes out to $5,999,353, or 6 million. So that should be it. Now, if we get things done under budget. So here's the schedule. We have no idea what things are gonna be like next year with costs. Here are the other roads in the multi-year plan right now. These are the steep grant we applied for this year, which we did not get. Old Street, School Street, Carriage Drive, McCarra Street, Bernice Ave, Birch Street, Bemis Street, partial, there's some patching around the curb. Kearney Street, there's some patching on Kearney Street up towards Birch, and Burnham Street. Burnham Street, we're hoping to do that in conjunction with Eversource, who's gonna replace in the gas next year. So we're trying to work with the utilities when they when they dig up the roads. Like up on Prospect right now. Some of the larger projects that we started looking at in our plan here, I mean, this is a 5-year plan. Beach Ave, adding sidewalks, we're missing, fixing sidewalks, drainage, where it floods all the time. Night Lane, Night Lane's in pretty bad shape, and there's a lot of pavement. So we've got sidewalks there that get replaced. The drainage was TV'd, it looks pretty good, Jimmy said. But there's a lot of paving, and that's gotta be all pulled up reclamation, because nothing's been done since they built that, I don't think. And Keegan Road and Bridge, we have some studies. We've been looking at that. The biggest thing's gonna be drainage on that road, and the bridge is another DOT eligible bridge, so it's gonna be expensive. And then Torrey Crossing, which we've started the project for applying, get an application in this fall for funding. And doing that realignment up there, East Plymouth, Judd and Matthew Street. And so that's my summary there. By improving the drainage and using this full depth reclamation process for rebuilding those roads, this anticipation is a longer service life and environmental benefit, cleaner drain water, recycling of the asphalt. So in this bond package, we're trying to build these roads a lot better. So we can start getting to the other 30% of roads that we have to get to that also need a lot of attention. So if we can build these to last 15 to 20 years, that gives us time to go over and get the other roads done. Thank you.
Yeah, don't step on that time though.
Thank you, Carl. So I know everybody's here to get information on the project, but I know we're at the point of the presentation that everyone really wants to know. How are we going to pay for a new police facility? Right, hang on, we're in the right one? Nope. We gotta go to the other one. Sorry. Hold on a minute. That's the one, right? Is that the right one? Is that where you were on? My headings have the same thing. Okay, sorry.
No, you're good.
Okay, so how are we gonna pay for a new police facility and road improvements? I just want to preface this all with just everyone, please keep in mind, as we move forward with this part of the presentation, a lot of what I'm gonna talk about is estimates and forecasting and unknowns. So please keep that in mind as you try to take some of this all in. For those of you who are not financial minded, here's your time to take a nap. So let's start off. What's our current debt service picture? Debt service is basically what do you have out for loans? Your mortgage, your car payment. For us, it's infrastructure. It's our schools. It's the new high school that we're still paying for. It's roads that we're paying for from several years ago that we took out in, I believe, 2014 or 13. There's some sewer debt that we still have that we're paying back to State of Connecticut Clean Water Fund. And there's a little bit of a piece of the 2012 bond issue that we just took out not too long ago that we're paying for. So we are paying these things back. Every town holds debt. Every town, there are many towns that go out and bond. It's called you going out and bonding on the market. There are towns that bond every single year for capital improvements because most towns cannot afford to do infrastructure improvements out of their regular operating budget on an annual basis. So capital improvements is what you go out and borrow for. New buildings, roads, etc. So where are we right now? In fiscal year 2026, which began on July 1 and goes through June 30th of next year, we are paying $2,286,104 in annual debt service. That includes the loans that we have outstanding and capital leases. We currently lease, we're in a leasing program for many of our plow trucks. That's a 7-year lease for our plow trucks. We have a lease that we are paying for right now for the SCBA air packs for our fire department. We have a couple other vehicles that are on there. We have one that is upcoming for a new a new fire truck, and we're also paying on the ladder truck that we took that we received a couple of years ago. From 2025, so fiscal year last year, oh, and I found a typo, through fiscal year 26. Currently, our debt service dropped $765,419. A little over $800,000 of that was some of the high school debt coming off. We paid off a portion of that debt. We added a little bit in leases, so our net is $765,000. At June 30th of 2026, we will have just over $10 million in outstanding bonds. That is principal, I believe that's principal and interest. We have $3.6 million of outstanding capital leases, including upcoming obligations for things that we potentially have not taken delivery yet, such as the fire truck that was ordered last year. We have an additional $1.8 million of bond maturities between fiscal 2026 and fiscal 28. So in the next 2 years, most of the school debt will be paid off. That will then allow more borrowing capacity that's needed for capital infrastructure improvements. And it's not necessarily a great thing when a town doesn't carry any debt. I can tell you in Winchester, they didn't carry debt for a long time. That's where I'm the finance director right now. And the problem with not carrying any debt is when you try to go out and bond, people are shocked because now you have to find the money because it's not part of your regular budget. It's a good process to have debt rolling and to keep your debt service at a level, level. So I thought this was a good slide to make everybody, so that everyone can understand, where do my current tax dollars go? When you get a tax bill in July, when you get your real estate, when you get your car taxes, all of that money goes into the town's general fund operating budget. But where does that money go? What do we spend our money on? You can see in that green, that really huge chunk, 58% of our $48 million budget goes to our school systems. That goes to educating the children in our town. 27.58 million of this year's budget is going to education. 35% of that stays with the town. That's our town operating budget. That's for our police department. That's for public works, the fire department, all the departments that you see in town hall here, including, excuse me, not including debt service. That's the town operating budget, 35% of our budget. Now see those two little tiny pies right there? We spend only about $1 million. 2% of our annual budget is spent on capital expenditures. So long-term capital improvements, roads, etc. 2% is what we spent. Our current debt service, we only have 4.63% of our operating budget. $2.1 million goes to pay down on debt. So we really have a very small chunk of our budget that we invest in our future, and we are paying off our debt. The majority of every single one of our taxes goes to education and the town operating budget. So the question everyone wants to know the answer to, will my taxes increase? And I can tell everyone, I don't have a crystal ball. And without a crystal ball, that's a very difficult question to answer. And everyone says, well, that should be easy. It's not. Because there are so many unknowns and there's so many factors that go into the annual budget that we don't know what's going to happen. Every year there's grand list fluctuations. This year we're going through revaluation. Everyone's assessment is going to change and it's probably going to go up upwards of 30 to 40%, correct? On real estate. That is the estimate that we're getting from our assessor. There are valuation methodology changes, as everyone understands. Your car taxes, the way that we value car taxes in the state of Connecticut changed with your tax bill this year. Tax collection rates can change. Some people are paying, sometimes we collect more, sometimes we collect less. We get a significant amount of money from state and federal grants and other funding. The Board of Education gets the bulk of that state and federal funding in grants to help them. The town only keeps a portion of that funding from the state in our education cost sharing on the town's side of the budget. That fluctuates. We never know what's going to come out of Hartford on an annual basis or a biannual basis from the budget. So that's hard to factor into where your taxes are going to be. We take in local departmental revenues. We take in land use fees, permitting fees, etc. That's contained in our local departmental revenues. There are inflationary impacts that impact our expenditures on an annual basis. What is everything going to cost next year? Everyone knows the electricity, everything has gone up. Our homes we're not immune in the town to those increases as you are getting in your homes. We have local union contract obligations. On the annual basis, everyone gets a raise, and they are union obligations that we cannot go back on. And then there's emergencies and unforeseen expenditures. Something blows, something, we lose a vehicle, something happens, a generator goes, we need to have money, and sometimes we have to pay those before we can budget for them in the coming year. So all of those things, we don't know. We don't know what it's going to be next year. We don't know what it's going to be 2 years from now. We don't know what it's going to be 5 years from now. So when you ask me, will my taxes increase? I don't know. Yes, potentially. But if there are other changes in all of these other places in the budget, they might not. They might not increase as much as you think they're going to increase. Is there going to be an impact? Yes. When you take on $26 million worth of debt, there has to be an impact. So what is that impact going to be, and how much of it can be forecast? So how do we come up with this? How do we come up with an estimate that we can answer the question that you have? Debt forecasting is based upon estimates of unknown budget impacts. So what do we look at? We look at historical data. What do we normally have our annual increase in our budget? We look at that. We use that in the forecast. We consider overall economic conditions. We look at business growth in the town. We look at the impact of revaluation on our grand list. All of these things factor into budgeting and forecasting. So in the next couple slides, you're going to see some numbers. And what I did was I used two different forecasting models. One is a very high level 30,000 foot approach that we use that comes from our bond advisor. We take our overall annual budget and we say it's going to increase 3% a year. 3% is a pretty average, and that's about what it's been over the last 4 years on an overall basis. Forecast model number 2, go back to that pie chart that I showed you all and all the pieces of our pie chart: education, town, debt service, and capitals. I split those out and used different percentages based on historical data over the last several years. What has our historical been on the town side? Board of Education and capital projects. And I built a forecasting model for that. That's what I spent my Labor Day weekend doing. What'd y'all do? And then within that, what's our grand list growth? We all know that our grand list has not been growing very steadily. I know that our town officials are working on that. I know that Bill Hansey is looking at the wall. And they are working on that with the downtown revitalization project, all with the goal of increasing our grand list and lessening the burden on our taxpayers on a residential versus a commercial basis. So understanding all that, here's where you can all take a nap if you'd like. This is what I came up with. Forecast number 1, which is the high level 3% overall. What is it going to cost for the new debt? What are the estimated taxes? This is per $100,000 of assessed value on a 20-year bond. So the first column, and this is really just to show you the difference between the two forecasts and where they come in. Forecast number 1 comes in a little bit higher because it's a little higher level. It doesn't go down into the weeds as much as forecast number 2. Forecast number 2 for each of these tax years is a little bit lower, somewhere in between our average. So let's just take 1 year. For $100,000 worth of assessed property, your tax bill on July 1 of 2026. If we take out new debt, and not the whole bundle of it all at one time, but on a basis, going out on an as-needed basis, you would see $29 more that you are paying for debt service from what you're paying now. Doesn't mean your tax bill is going to go up $29. It means the portion of your taxes that you pay are now going to be a larger chunk paying towards debt service. Forecast number 2, looking at a little closer detail and the best that I could forecast, knowing the finances of the town, how our grand list moves, etc., comes in a little bit lower at $22. So average that out at about 26. This is just kind of to give everybody some idea of, we don't know. We don't know where these numbers are gonna land. So let's use a couple of different methodologies to see if we can get close. So now, can everybody see that? Okay. Again, we're talking about, all of these are per $100,000 of assessed value. I understand most people's houses right now are not assessed at $100,000, but it's easy to use $100,000 because if your assessment is 200 or 300, just multiply by 2 or multiply by 3 and use these numbers. So per $100,000 right now, your tax bill that you got on July 1 includes $251 that's going to pay down our current debt. If we take out new debt, and we would be taking that out over, we have a short-term note planned, and then we would do a first tranche, which would be $10 million on the police station and $3 million on the roads. A year later, we would take out the remaining 10 million for the police station and a remaining $3 million for the roads. When you speak with the bond council, they don't allow you to take out everything and start paying it back all in one big chunk. They don't like you to borrow money and then not use it right away. So you have to space out your debt on an as needed basis. So on July 1 of 26, the amount that you're currently going to pay for the current debt that we have, you see that it's going down, and I talked about our debt maturities. That goes down to $215. Now we layer in new debt. We've started borrowing. The amount that you're going to pay for that new proposed debt is the $29 that I talked about before. I used in this column for the new debt, even though I showed you 2 different forecasts, I used the high level 30,000 foot estimate because it's a higher estimate. I didn't want to bring it in too low, so I used the higher number just for these models. So in total, July 1 of 2025, you're paying $251. July 1 of 26, with the addition of new debt, you're actually only going to be paying $244. And now we get into a little more of the borrowing where we start paying back some of the money. July 1 of 27, that would go up to $288. And I don't think you can see it very well, but this line I have highlighted, July 1 of 2028, which is actually our fiscal year 2029. Excuse me, based on what the current schedule is that we would estimated schedule of bonding, that would be the year that it would spike, that the amount of taxes that you pay for your debt service is going to spike. From that point forward, for the next 17 years of a 20-year bond, that number is going to continue to come back down. So we're losing debt on what we already have. All of our maturities we're paying off all our debt, but we're layering in a new layer of debt. But July 1 of 2028 would be the year that your tax bill is the highest, or that your taxes that you pay for debt service is the highest. From that point on, we start to decline again over the next 17 years. So, yeah, lots of numbers on this schedule. So how much is it going to cost at $100,000, $200,000, and $300,000 of assessed value? July 1 of 26, a little bit. July 1 of 27, a little bit more. July 1 of 28, again, like I said, this is the year that it would spike. So for $100,000, what you're paying for the proposed new debt, you'd be paying $245 at $100,000. For $200,000, you would be paying $489. For $300,000, $734. So the cost, and I do this on a cost per day basis, just to kind of give you an idea of what is it going to cost in a day, or for a day, for potentially an increase in taxes. And again, I don't want to repeat myself, but I want to say it enough so that people understand. This does not necessarily mean that this is going to be how much your taxes go up. This is strictly how much of your taxes are going for debt service. So all those other moving pieces of your budget, if there are reductions in other sections of the budget, we could be covering this and you could not be seeing an increase of $734 in 1 year on your taxes, because there may be reductions. We might get a little more funding from the state of Connecticut. We might get a little more funding from the motor vehicle cap, the money that comes from the state. Our grand list might grow a little bit more from businesses coming into town, from the new developments that are going in. Those are taxable, those will be taxable grand list properties, I believe, correct, Pam? Yeah, hopefully. So because of all those moving parts, this is the only thing that I can give you. And keep in mind, these are estimates. These are not set in stone because we don't know what the borrowing rates are going to be at the time we go out to borrow. And we don't know what our next year's budget is going to entail and what the specifics of that are going to be. So these are all estimates, and they are the closest estimates that I could come up with to try to answer the questions that everybody has. So over a 20-year period, and I know this is a question that we got from Mr. Murphy via email, what would it cost in total? If we take out 20-year bonds, so we would take out 20-year, they're called general obligation bonds. Right now, everybody has a credit rating. It's kind of like your credit score. Towns have and cities have a credit rating. Ours is currently through Standard & Poor's. We have a credit rating. We were upgraded in October 2021 to an A+ with a stable outlook. There is a grading system, and it goes from AA goes down, and then A+ goes up, and I don't understand it, but we're somewhere in the middle of the pack. We don't have the greatest rating, but we're kind of not in the toilet. So we're much better than we used to be. When we go out to bond, every time you go out to do a bond issue, you are required to do a ratings review with Standard & Poor's. So they will come in, they'll ask you all these questions, you prepare for it. You sit on a call with the analysts, and they will go over the financial aspects of the town, the procedures, the controls, where are you, what's your fund balance, everything, what's your budget look like, how do you budget, do you budget from your fund balance? There's a multitude of factors. They will then determine, okay, now this is what your rating is. That rating determines the rates that you can go out to the market and get on it. I mean, just like your credit score determines the borrowing rate that you can get, this is what the town has from our credit rating. So within these forecasts that we have for the bonds right now, we are anywhere from 3 to 4%. 3% on a short-term note, up to 3.75, 4% on the long-term notes. And these come directly from our bond advisor, Phoenix Advisors, who gives us these rates and plugs those into the forecast that they provide to us. So I'm going to skip the last bullet, and I'm going to go over to the side. So on the police facility, I put 10 million. That's supposed to be 20 million right there, I think. Right? Yeah, that's supposed to be 20 million. The interest on that is correct, though. The 8,137,000. On the road improvements, taking out $6 million, we would be paying a little over $2.4 million in interest. And I know these numbers seem extremely high for interest, but I guarantee you, if you looked at your mortgage and you determined how much you're paying in interest on your mortgage, you'd probably be shocked at how much you pay over the life of your mortgage. So when you go out and you take out $20 million, that number in interest is going to be a big nut. But keep in mind, that's only 3 to 4%. I guarantee you most people's mortgages are much higher than that. Short-term note, we would have a little bit of interest on a short-term note we would take out to get the project started, about $1 million. That would allow Carl to get started on his projects in the springtime. That would allow us to get started on the design work, et cetera, for the police station. And then you have issuance costs. That's what you pay to your bond counsel. That's what you pay to your bond advisor. That's what you pay to the closing bank, et cetera. So in total, I'm not sure that totals up correctly. That might be 10 million short on that. The last one, though, the last bullet point, though, is a good point to have. Typically, and you have this in your homes too, interest rates go down, you have the ability to refinance your loans. In the municipal market, those are what's called a call feature. Our bonds typical bonds have a call feature of 7 years. So for 7 years, you have to hold those bonds and you pay the interest rate that we get on those from the start. After 7 years, bond advisor picks up the phone and says, hey, interest rates are favorable right now. I think it would be a good idea if you refunded your bonds. Simply refunding means refinancing. That's all that means. It's just a fancy term. I don't know why they use that, but you refund them. They pay them off, you take out new ones, you have a much better rate on those, and you have interest savings and payment savings. We've done this a couple times when I was here in the town of Plymouth. We did this once or twice with some of the loans to bring down, and I think we saved about $250,000 on one of our outstanding notes. So there is an opportunity to refinance. So please keep that in mind as you say, wow, that's a lot of interest. Over the life of the loans, that typically you typically have the opportunity to refund and refinance those notes. So everyone knows that we have a looming sewer project going on right now. That obviously in some way, shape, or form is going to impact the town of Plymouth. However, right now, the total project cost has not been determined. They are working right now to determine how much that project is going to cost and the scope of that project. We don't know how much state or federal grant assistance we're going to get. Are we going to be able to borrow under the State of Connecticut Clean Water Fund? State of Connecticut Clean Water Fund typically has a 2% interest rate. You pay that over 20 years. You pay that back to the state of Connecticut. And there is a percentage that you get in loan forgiveness. It's basically a grant. So a portion of that you pay back, and a portion of that they forgive the loan in a grant. Don't know what that percentage is going to be. We have projects in Winchester right now that we are going through, and we have, I think, upwards of 45% forgiveness. But we don't know. We don't know if we're even going to get that money through Clean Water Fund. Who's going to pay for the upgrades? Are all the residents going to be assessed? Or is it just going to be the sewer users? That is to be determined. Our potential project start date is at least 2 years away from now. So if we wait to say, what's the project for the sewer? How is the project for the sewer going to impact the town? We're still we're 2 years out, if not 2 more years out from even addressing the needs of our roads and our police department. So that comes to the conclusion of what we have prepared. I'm not sure how the mayor wants to do questions. Do you want to do police station first, roads second, roads first, police station? How do you want to?
Let's do the police station first. We're gonna try to just come around, so I know people have been standing. When I give you the mic, if you have public comment, please try to speak loudly, start with your name and address, so we have it for the record. We're gonna try to not have to do a sign-up sheet tonight. So what I'm gonna do is I'll start on this side of the room, make my way back and come around. So as I come by, any public comment? Yes,
I got a generalized question. I think I saw where there was an additional 6 to 8.
sir, hold on 1 second, sir. We're gonna just start and we'll come around, okay? So we'll start over here and we'll just work our way around the room. Any public comment here? Question?
Yeah, Patty and I used to go to,
Just your name and address.
I'm sorry, building up 20 Lynn Avenue, Terryville. Birthplace of the Industrial Revolution. Anyway, Patty and I used to go to a church where the pastor was a police officer. He was an active duty Avon cop. And every once in a while, he would give us a little glimpse into what life was like on the other side of the badge. And it's not fun, as you can imagine. Most people, when they go to their job, they have the expectation that they're going to spend the day with some people who are on their best behavior. And when you're a police officer, when you go to your job, you have a pretty good expectation that you're going to be spending a lot of time with people who, apart from your colleagues, of course, are on their worst behavior. And that worst behavior can be very bad, as we all know, is from our incident that we know happened in our next door neighbor, Bristol. And I'm sure Mr. Hamsey will never forget that, and neither will we. And also, some of our officers are veterans. I believe Sergeant Latimer is an Iraq War veteran. So these men served their country and now they're serving our community. And that doesn't mean that they haven't laid their lives on the line. You can be killed just as dead by a criminal in Bristol than you can by an enemy soldier who pray to God that won't happen. I recently had a medical emergency, and it turned out that it was pretty serious. An ambulance was called and quickly came and took me to the emergency room in Bristol Hospital. But before the ambulance came, something else happened. Two Plymouth police officers were standing beside me, making sure that I was okay. What price tag would you put on that? They'll do the same thing for every one of you. You can't put a price on what they do for us. So they deserve the best that we can give them. And they've put up with their bad facilities, bad working conditions for long enough. They deserve the best we can give them, so let's do it.
Just your name and address for the record. Robert Allen, 17 Megan Boulevard. My only question is, why is it as a single referendum, not as two referendums? So streets and the police department.
It'll be two questions on the referendum, so you could vote yes or no on either one.
Okay.
Yes. Name and address for the record.
Alicia DeVeros, 47 Jane Court. My question, I know that you guys said not to go backwards, and I do know that our police definitely deserve, we've been in there. So you guys definitely deserve a new place to call home. But I do want to ask a question. I know that previously, you mentioned that Prospect School was pending sale back in 2018, but that was 7 years ago. So has that been like reapproached at all? Because at the same time, they do deserve a new place, but we also know realistically, it's gonna fall on our backs. So and I know you guys have looked at different things, but I just want to know, that was 7 years ago, did the sale go through? What other things have you guys looked at? And I know you guys also said about the grants, but also just checking to see if the local capital improvement program was ever looked at, or an application was put in for that. That's all I have.
I'll just address Prospect Street School. That was subsequently sold. There was subject to ongoing litigation for at least a year, so that project was held up, and then the owner chose not to do the project. He recently did sell, and so it is in the hands of another developer who has started work on the building right now. As far as the other question,
Was your question,
yeah.
you said local capital improvements, do you mean within the town of Plymouth, or do you mean local capital improvement plan through the state of Connecticut? So we get LoCIP, it's called LoCIP is the acronym for it. It's Local Capital Improvement Plan. We receive LoCIP funds on an annual basis. Those are built into our budget, to the town of Plymouth budget, and they are built into the road improvement line. So we have within your operating budget that you approve, that gets approved every year, there is a portion, that little tiny pie slice that I showed you in that chart is local capital improvements that we budget for here in the town of Plymouth. The costs for reval, the cost for annual road maintenance, which is around now upwards of $1 million on an annual basis. That LoCIP funding that we get on an annual basis that used to come on a reimbursement basis to the town now comes in an upfront grant to the state, from the state of Connecticut. So we receive that in March or May or something like that of each year. That gets budgeted for as to offset the amount of money that actually taxpayers fund for road improvements. So if we get, I don't know what our number is, I know in Winchester.
253,000.
For LoCIP,
Yeah, for LoCIP.
you get that much, really?
Lots if we get 120.
No, just for LoCIP funds, because we get about 126,000 a year in Winston. It's probably a little bit.
Lots.
There are some other ones. There's municipal grants and aid sometimes that comes through. Some of those grants get budgeted for all to offset typically the road portion. We do get a town aid grant also that comes on an annual basis.
I know we had here.
My name is Justin Conforti. I live at 84 South Eagle Street. No doubt, we need a police station. It's a mess down there. I feel bad for all of them. I think what I'm looking for from my police department is when I see you in public, you're directing traffic and you're not directing traffic. I see you on your phones all the time. I know speeding is really bad in this town. I think everyone can agree, and I feel like tickets are not being written. What a great way to help fund your police station by writing some tickets and slowing people down.
Sir, that money doesn't come back to the town.
We want something back. We want to support you and we're helping you support us. You're gonna spend $80,000 on signs for those new roads? Throw a police officer there. There you go. One to spend $80,000. Since 2020, the police budget has gone up 39%. No doubt, the world has changed since then. That little pie chart, 7% of that, the police department is that. If we do move forward with a $20 million police station, I'd like to consider solar panels on your $35,000 carport you're gonna put up there. Solar panels in the building, an energy efficient building, because that's gonna cost money. And if we have those things that help maybe generate power for the police station, I think I might consider spending $20 million on a police.
Any more in this row? Any comment?
Right behind
You
you.
do? Sure. We'll get to you, I promise. We're coming around.
Right behind you. Gentlemen.
Yep, I'll come right to you. We'll go to you first and then. Okay. Name and address, sir.
Jonathan DeBarros from 47 Jane Court, Interiorville, Connecticut. I think, one of the things we have to keep in mind as citizens of America is that we have over 200,000 illegal migrants currently residing in our state. We spent $1.3 billion on them. So for Jahana Hayes, your current congressional representative, for her not to earmark federal funding for our local law enforcement is a disgrace. I was on Newsmax. I actually gave a plug to our local PD because I think that the money that we're spending and wasting on illegal migrants should be allocated to our own citizens. So I think we need to put pressure on our current representatives. And if they don't want to do it, I think we should start running our own neighbors as our representatives. So thank you.
Yeah, Lawrence Minor, I'm in Bissell Road in Terryville. We're not talking about the subject here. The point is, this police station is pathetic. Years ago, when I was on my vacation, my son threw a party we didn't know about. And the police came and I got called down to the station. And the cop had to interview me out in a public area, telling me the danger of your kid doing things like that. So anyway, let's get to the point. The police station cost just went up $5 million in the last 5 years. So all you have to do is keep putting it off. I don't like my taxes. I don't think any of us do. But if you keep putting it off, you're gonna pay $30 million. So all I'm saying is, really think about it. It's gotta be done. Don't keep putting it off. Thank you.
Any public comment?
Hi, my name is Linda Kuzmersky and I agree with Bill and this gentleman that just spoke. I don't know how many of you here right now have worked in the police station. I have. 37 years ago, I worked under John Kernitsky under the CETA program. I worked days and then after when I was trained to be a dispatcher, I worked nights. When I had a little bit of spare time, I walked around that station. It was pathetic back then. It's pathetic even more now. I support this police station 100% because remember, like Bill and this other gentleman said, they risk our lives for us. We should give them something back in return. So please support this police department because we need it. After working in there, you wouldn't want to work in there. So please support this police department and support our men and women in blue.
Hi, my name is Dave Sebastian. I live at 26 Fountainhead Road. I actually got two things to say. I know we need a new police department. There's no doubt in my mind about it. And we've got some of the worst roads in the state in this town. The other thing is, correct me if I'm wrong. Did I see that there was a study to be done at $6 to $8 million with the police station? Or was that incorrect?
No. With our police station?
Yes.
No, to date, we've spent $21,000 on the initial space needs assessment and the feasibility study that also came up with the preliminary drawings and plans. And just so everyone knows, if you have not seen them, We did put the poster boards out in the hallway tonight. Those are preliminary plans that were drawn. Those are not final plans. Final plans would not be drawn and done until they go back, until we were to put the project out to bid. And that's when you would finalize and get final plans. Those are just preliminary renderings to give you an idea of you have to come up with something to come up with a potential cost. So no, $6 to $8 million, no.
Okay, because there is some misinformation out there then about it, because I've heard that from many people, that there was an extra $6 to $8 million. And my thing was gonna be, if it was there, why wasn't it addressed? But seeing that you said it's not there, I'm good with it.
Clear up those misconceptions.
Yes. Yeah, there's $6 to $8 million. We've not spent that. No, be great if we had it, that we could spend it, but no, we have not. Thank you.
Thank you.
John Murphy, 385 Grace up formerly. I just have some issues that I believe the town should be given options. And I think you mentioned, Anne Marie, 25 to 75 for free options. There are options out here. And a $20 million nut gonna cost us roughly, what, 30 million? The sewer department, I'm a commission member on the sewer commission. And I think in another 2 years, we were told that we're gonna be ready to bond the project. And it's upwards of 20 million. So I don't know if there's a possibility you can downscale it a little bit. I remember the last meeting you had here, 6 or 8 months ago, you had a similar type of meeting. And I actually spoke with the architect. And he said, yeah, 20 million is a little high. I'm more in the 15 million range. So, where's the number?
So I know that was one of your questions, and that was why I brought up the cost per square foot. So when you spoke to Brian after the meeting, and he talked about $600 a square foot to build, you were correct on that, and I did get clarification from one of his associates this week. I brought that question up to him, and he said, absolutely, you are correct in the around $600 a square foot. However, that is building cost alone. So that was not the full kit and caboodle. That did not include site costs. That did not include the soft costs that I spoke to. And I did, he did say, yes, that is correct, the $600 a square foot, but that is only the building cost. And that's why I kind of gave that comparison to Windsor Locks, because Windsor Locks is the most recent build to take place. And it was the build using the construction company that did the updated estimate for us. So that, and let me go back to that. Let me find that slide again. Can we go back into one of the slides? Is that possible, Jamie? Into the original?
I mean, I'm not opposed to the first slide.
The first slide show you.
Drug this out long enough, and we definitely need it. It's just, what size do we need?
I'm gonna let Michael talk a little about the size of the police station, and he can talk a little bit more and give you a little bit more background while we look at this, while I look for the slide.
I think I mentioned at the meeting we had in January, we can always revisit the scope. What we need is, if the town council was to say, you know what? We're not gonna go to a $20 million bond, or maybe 18, but even once we start the process, I can tell you that I was the chairman of the building committee that built the West Bristol School in Bristol. We had a bond of $52 million for that. I'm sorry, yeah, $51 million for that school. We came in at 42. We came in $9 million under what we had bonded, because we need to make sure we have enough money bonded to cover the costs. I can say to you that once we get into the process, once we get into the bidding process, if the bidding process is competitive, and if it looks like the costs are gonna go way out of control, then we revisit the scope of the project. We want to make sure that we bond enough money that we never have to come back to you and ask for more. I've only been involved with 2 major building committees so far. We came out under budget on both of them. I really think, knowing the expertise, we've heard Anne Marie tonight, and we have Mark Sikorsky, who's a builder and contractor in town, that we will ask the right questions and we will bring that in under budget. Or if it looks like it's going to be over budget, then we revisit the scope.
Thank you.
So John, I just want to address your question on the square footage. We brought up the slide again, and that was the comparison to Windsor Locks. So I talked about Windsor Locks, their building construction again was $13,876,000. They have a 21,000 square foot facility, including an outbuilding. The cost for their outbuilding is included in that 21,000 square foot and that cost of 13.8. So they came in at $649 a square foot on the build only. If you look at the estimates that we have on the construction only, on the 16,000 square, that's the gross square footage, that's coming in at $791. And remember, these are only estimates. Theirs are the actual cost to build. Our outbuilding cost is broken out separately, and you can see what a difference in the cost per square foot building construction is versus the outbuilding. So when you put that outbuilding cost lumped in with Windsor Locks' gross cost, that's pulling that square foot number, the cost per square foot number down just a little bit, because I guarantee you the square footage doesn't matter because it's on a square foot basis. So your 791 versus a combined of 649. Keep in mind, those outbuilding costs for Windsor Locks are pulling their average slightly downward because it's cheaper to do the outbuilding because it doesn't have the amenities that the main building does. So you are within the range. You're also going to be a year to 2 years later than their building cost when they locked into their guaranteed maximum cost. So you are going to have a little bit of a cost escalation built in there. So you were correct in that when you came up with the 600 or so, that was just for the building. So we can build them a building for 600 or so square feet, but they won't have any furniture or anything else in it or fixtures.
And this proposal will be on the town website too.
Jessica Scoville, 32 Ronald Road. First, I'd like to commend the ad hoc committee. We know that you guys are volunteers and the work that you put in to provide us with this information, it's amazing. Next, I'd like to apologize to Sergeant Latimer and Chief. You shouldn't be standing here begging us to protect you the way that you protect us. And that, a lot of them are customers of ours. So you know that my husband and I own 2 commercial businesses as well as a resident in this town. All of our staff own homes in this town. So when it comes to the tax burden that we're gonna feel, trust me, we feel it. But John, you're saying you're on the sewer committee, right? So you know that this town, it's growing. We're bringing in new housing. What do you think that's gonna do for emergencies and stuff like that? These officers have waited long enough. It's time to step up and back them.
I'm Dr. Ventura. I live at 438 South Main Street. I've had the privilege to do a ride along, get downstairs and see the facility. And I realize that nobody wants to spend money on more taxes, but it's absolutely necessary. It's an investment not only in our police department, but in each one of us as neighbors and in our town. And I want to thank the Plymouth Police. Whether you realize or not, you have some of the finest officers in the country. And I've been in California, I've been across the country, I've driven across this country 42 times in the last 9 years. And I've interacted with quite a few police officers. I have a prison ministry. And we have some of the finest officers. You ought to be grateful for that up here. They deserve it. We should pay for it. And we should keep them in. And remember, as this gentleman said, it's going to cost money, not just for the building, but to upgrade. We're dealing with cyber criminals. We're dealing with a whole new level of crime. And they have to be prepared. And I just want to thank them. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
My name is Jim Pelletier. I live at 311 North Street in Plymouth. If it comes from the heart, I'm going to tell you, your police officers need this. My nephew was a state trooper that was struck on 84 2 years ago. It took his life for Troop H to change and remodel the gymnasium under his name. He worked his heart out there. He gave his life for the state of Connecticut. These troopers do the same thing. Excuse me. These police officers do the same thing. I've been in their hall. I've been in their rooms. It's very tight. It's very hard for them to work.
They need space. Don't wait until something happens. It was just the gymnasium, but it meant a lot to my nephew. It means a lot to the troopers at Troop H. This police station is something that we need here. Thank you.
Thank you, so. The bathroom.
Maureen Capetto, 55 Heather Lane. So my question for, I guess, Anne Marie is the answer source tonight, but so in section 9, when it says the balance of any appropriations or proceeds of any bond not needed to meet the cost of the project may be transferred upon approval of the town council to meet the actual cost of any other capital project of the town. So when you're saying that things could come in lower, it's not really gonna matter because that money's just gonna be spent on something else? Is that what this is
No,
saying?
not necessarily. So, and maybe Joe can clarify because I know that we had, we took out some bonds several years ago. I'm not sure if it was the 2016 bond. There were 4 questions on that. There was one for town hall renovations. There was some, road engineering. There was road improvements. And I forgot the last one. I can't remember what that was. Within that bond resolution was the ability to, of those 4 projects that were approved, there was, and that's somewhat standard language if the town asks for it, that you could reallocate any unused funds, but you can't reallocate it to just anything. It had to be within those categories that were approved at that bond referendum. So when some of the projects came, I know what it was. It was a Charles Street project. So when Charles Street came, I think Charles Street came in under budget. That was then allowed to be reallocated with the approval of the town council to the other road improvements. And we had some other road improvements that were, came in under budget. And those projects you were allowed to reshuffle those funds, but you couldn't go out and spend it on anything. We had to, if you wanted to do some roads, it had to be some of the roads that were identified in the last road study, which was back to 2012 or whatever the first one was done. And that had to be approved. So I would guess that if the police station were to come in under budget, the only place that you could reallocate any surplus, and I know this, would be to road projects. We couldn't turn around and say, we want to renovate town hall, or we want to buy something else, or we want to just whatever. If the only place you could reallocate it, because these 2 questions would be part of the same bonding, would be to additional road projects.
We're voting on this, or that is not safe.
I am not aware of what the resolutions say. That's a question I think for the mayor.
Including capital project authorized by prior or future bond resolutions. So it has to be related to something that was a bond resolution in the past or future, correct? But that would have to be authorized as a bond resolution, which you can't do without a referendum. So if we were gonna do something completely separate, we would have to come back to the taxpayers for that. So if we had $3 million left and. Yep.
Probably under budget, you could see lower, not.
No, it says we could, doesn't mean you will.
So if it came in under budget, let's just say the police station, because that's the larger one, because we know they're always gonna have roads to do, right? So if the police station came in, say, $3 million under budget, and I think what the mayor is saying is that, let's say in the future, and you know it's gonna happen, we're gonna ask for more money for more road work. Instead of going out and asking for another $6 million with the approval of the town council, you could take that $3 million of surplus, allocate that to the roads, and then go out to the taxpayers for only $3 million. But you could not just say, we are going to take that and reallocate that to some other random project. It would have to be a project that you were going to go out and bond and go out to a referendum. So I would not be worried that money would be reallocated to projects that are not authorized projects, because there is governance and oversight from bond council. So we are bound to only spend the money on the approved projects. And if we do not spend the money on projects that have been approved at referendum and we try to reallocate that, that's a huge no-no. You can't do that. Bond council would be all over that.
Prior, we were making it sound like it was even under budget.
Previously, it was made to sound like if we came in under budget, then we wouldn't spend that money, but really, that money could be spent. Like you
It could be, but not on the, I mean, if the budget, for us as a committee, I would say our goal is to come in under budget. What that surplus, if there is surplus money, that is not our decision to make. That would have to be at the direction of the mayor's office and the town council to determine what to do with that surplus. So that surplus, you either don't go out in bond, because if, let's say we're getting to the end of the project or the second tranche that we would go out to bond and we say, all right, we know we're gonna come in under budget. We wouldn't even go out and borrow that money. You wouldn't go out and borrow the full $20 million if we're not gonna use that. So partway through the project, you have a good idea of what you're gonna need and what your project is gonna end at. If the project were going to end at, say, $17 million, just because those are the numbers that we're working off of, you wouldn't even borrow, you'd only go out and borrow an additional 7. You would not borrow that additional money. We would never even be paying back that money. So we wouldn't take that and draw that in the first place if the town council or the mayor so chose to ask to reallocate that surplus to another future project that is going to be going to referendum, I believe, then they could choose that. But we would not have drawn down that money. We wouldn't be paying back that money because we wouldn't have allocated to a project yet. So you only draw as much as you need. It's kind of like if anybody's ever done a construction loan before, you take out as much as you need on an as-you-go basis. That's what you would do. You would take out money on an initial basis for the start of the build. Halfway through the project and halfway into that 14-month build, we would then bond the additional amount that we needed. But we would never go out and bond more than what we expect a project is going to cost, because why would we borrow money that we haven't used and pay interest on money that we're not using right now? Does that make sense? Okay.
Roxanne Perugino, 82 Allen Street, Terryville. I think to go along with that, just so you might understand, if we do get any state or federal funding after this referendum, we would not need to borrow the $20 million.
That is correct. Yes.
So it would be even less if we do get state and federal, but that's up to all of our elected officials to get that money from the state or federal government.
That's correct. That's a good point that you make. Just because we go out and ask for $20 million does not mean that that's what it's going to cost the town of Plymouth. If we do get this approved, and I hope we get this approved, that gives us another incentive to go back to the state of Connecticut and say our taxpayers and our residents are in favor of this. And now we need your help. Money has been allocated. Mayor, you can attest to this, correct? That the bond commission has money set aside for the town of Plymouth. It has been approved. It just has not gotten released.
Correct. So I believe it's off the top of my head, $10 billion passed the House and the Senate. It's just a matter of the governor putting it on the bond council. And so far we have not had luck getting him to do so, but we haven't given up yet. And the hope is that if we do pass the referendum, the governor may change his mind or decide to be a little more helpful. So.
Melanie Church, 328 Main Street. We have $600,000 we have left over from the North Main Street Bridge. That money got spent without the public. So what you're saying up there is two different things. You said then, oh, well, we can just use it on any roads. That money had been sitting there for 12 years. And we did not even have a say on where it was going to be spent. So that is not so that it is. Also, the chief originally was supposed to move to this town. The chief never moved here. It's still on the bonding.
It's not about personnel. Please keep your comments to the proposed.
Okay. And number two, is when you say it's gonna cost this much, how much did you just get through saying that it was going to, our taxes or our reval would be up 30 to 40%? People need to look at their own pocketbooks. And how much can they afford more? That's a question that needs to be asked by each individual here, because it's your home, it's your house, and this is your money.
So I'm gonna just briefly address the $600,000 because I know that's been a topic of conversation for a long time and it's sort of off topic a little bit, but I want to kind of bring it back in. So it does speak to what we just talked about reallocating. Back in 2012, there was $1.6 million was approved to do the North Main Street Bridge at the end near Route 72. We only drew $1 million on that. So for several years, $600,000 was left sitting there. It was approved at referendum. It was approved along with several other projects at that time back in 2012, and that was prior to me even being part of the town finances. However, back in 2021, when Charlie Beager, who was the Public Works Director at the time, were reviewing the 2016 bond referendum results and where there was money that could potentially be reallocated to do more road projects. I was the person who determined that that $600,000 had not been drawn down on the North Main Street Bridge. We didn't need it because we ended up getting a grant for a portion of that was paid for. So that was approved at referendum. In the bond resolution was that little clause that said that money could be reallocated to other projects within the referendum that was approved. Part of that was other roads. So that was approved by the taxpayers to spend on North Main Street Bridge. But within that resolution was the ability to reallocate that to another project. So we all know, obviously, because we're here tonight and Carl is here talking about the roads that need help with the ghosts. So what happened was we came up with the $600,000 was available to be reallocated for more road improvements, plus an additional $700,000 or $800,000 or so.
I think it was 690.
It was about 1.1 or $1.2 million in total from those two bond referendums that was available to reallocate to do more road work. That does not have to go out to another vote to the taxpayers. When you vote at that referendum, that is what was included in that referendum and in that question was the ability to reallocate those funds. Those funds did not have to be reapproved by the taxpayers. And just so you know, under Mayor Kildoff, they did finally go out and borrow that second 600, oh, sorry, I have a foot cramp, $600,000 a year and a half ago, and that was allocated to do
Allentown Road.
Thank you. So yes, there was nothing nefarious, there was nothing illegal, there was nothing that needed to go to the taxpayers. It was approved by the town council to be reallocated to work on a road that needed work. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Bob Flanagan, 81 Heather Lane, Terryville. I'm a retired Bristol police officer. I just like to say, I've been in probably 25% of the police departments in the state of Connecticut at one time or another. And this department here is the most deplorable I've ever been in. And if you look at all the towns that surround Plymouth, majority of all have newer police departments. Even Woolkit, which is about the same size as here, put on a big addition on their department. So as far as I'm concerned, I will vote for a new police department.
Matthew Kozakowski, 45 Fountainhead Road. This is an interesting one for me for both of these topics. I'm also a registered architect in the state of Connecticut. I've been working in public safety. I know I'm young, but I'm coming up on 20 years. Full disclosure, I do not work for the firm who's doing this project. I work for one of the competitors. But I just want to give some insight to the community from somebody who is in this kind of industry. Number one, we have an opportunity. The state of Connecticut is looking to adopt the next code cycle next year. There is an opportunity for this project to go out to bid and permit before that happens. I've never been through a code cycle that didn't increase the cost of a building. So please consider that as you're thinking about this. There were some questions earlier about cost per square footage. I just want to let people know, just because you make a building smaller doesn't necessarily mean the cost per square footage goes down. Typically, it goes up because there are just base costs in doing a project that you must absorb, and you don't get the economy of scale on building a bigger station. Some of the things that were talked about today, the chief described kind of how she had to hold some evidence in her personal office and things like that. You know, those things in a modern day police station are handled very differently. That's, you know, marijuana, which causes that problems, but we're also dealing with things like fentanyl. And when fentanyl becomes aerated, an officer can overdose. So typically evidence is stored under negative pressure rooms in modern day systems for the safety of all the troopers. You know, chain of custody and storage is a very important aspect of what they do. And for the town, there's a lot of risk that we take when they have to do these things. So every day that they're operating under these conditions, they're doing their best, but we're also sitting here just waiting for the clock to tick. So thank you very much.
My name is Sandra Lozier and I live on 41 Allen Street, and I want to say that I love our police department. I'm very proud of them, and actually my brother retired at the rank of captain back in 2010. And I worked for the New York City Board of Education for 28 years, and 25 of those years were in a school in Lower Manhattan. And the last 8 years, I was the assistant principal of security and student activities. I bring all this up because I worked across the street from Police Plaza, and I worked with a lot of different police officers because we were one of the schools that evacuated during 9/11. So after that, the job became very much to do with security. That is part of my huge respect for this police department. And I totally believe they need another building, they need better facilities. My concern is the way the building will be built. The school I worked in, Manhattan, is not known for its wide range of land. The school I worked in was built on a very small piece of land. But it was 5 stories, 6 stories above ground and 2 below. And my concern and actually question is if any of those plans that are being considered have that kind of a stacking effect instead of a spread out effect. And whether or not, if there's gonna be a basement, and I hope there would be, if that could be in full, or at least a large part of storing the things like the fentanyl and all this, I'm trying to think of the word that you just said, that was to hold the evidence, thank you. Shame on me. And could it be in the basement? Would that be a considered part of the thing you said for an environment for that kind of thing? If that would be possible in the basement? And would that eliminate the, if you had a basement, storing that, would it also work to eliminate the need for the extra building? I don't know, I'm asking. And if you had like easy access to the first floor and then everything else go on the second or third floor, would that be a little bit cheaper and give you more room and not any more of a cost?
So the plans that were drawn, and again, those are preliminary plans to fit on the plot that is back out there. You can, if you notice that there is a drop off, and that it kind of goes into a gully. So that allowed them to do a design that would have the first floor operations kind of below sea level here, below the parking lot level. That would be all of the prisoner holding cells. They would be able to transport them in from the Sally Port, which would be behind, you wouldn't see that. And then the floor that you would see when you look out the back of Town Hall would be the main floor of offices. That would be where the public would go into. That would be where I believe the training rooms would be, et cetera. So within there, and I'm not sure where, I believe the bulk evidence storage was going to be on the first floor, but you'd have to look at the poster boards that are out in the hallway, because off the top of my head, I can't remember what the plan would be, but the way that it's being laid out was to allow to fit on the property with the least amount of site work that you would have to, would cost us more money.
Yes, I'm Sue Berard from One Fall Mountain Terrace in Terryville. I totally agree. We do need a good place for our police officers to be. And it's not safe the way it is. I've seen pictures of it. It's just terrible. But the other question I had is, I thought we just went through an assessment because they sent things to our homes. Then they sent back what the value of our homes would be. Is there a different one?
No, that is the current process of the revaluation. So you do have a reval company that goes out and does the work to look at properties. You might have seen them. I think we got something. You might have gotten a piece of paper in the mail that says to verify what you have for square footage. That is all part, we contract with a revaluation company. That is what they do. I'm not sure who's doing it, if Timmons is doing it or not, who's doing our work, or who's doing the work, Pam? Equality does the work. So that is all part of the valuation. So they go out and they gather all that information. That whole revaluation process takes several months, up to a year. That will then all be part of the October 1 grand list. The October 1, the value as of October 1 of 2025 of your property is what your tax bill in July 1 of 26 is based on. So, and I can just tell everybody that the estimates that I worked on here in coming up with some of the numbers did factor in the potential increase in the property values. With an increase in the property values, though, there should be a corresponding drop in the mill rate, and that's how it typically works. Your assessments go up. So just so everybody understands, your assessed value is 70% of what your market value is. That assessed value is what you get taxed on based on what the mill rate is. So for every $1,000 worth of property, for the mill rate, that's what your tax bill is based on. When your valuations go up, typically what happens, there's an inverse relationship between your assessed value and your mill rate. So, and I did do a calculation. So, and how you can figure it out is, or how I figured it out, our mill rate right now is a little over 39.47. So if you took your tax bill this year and your property value went up 40%, and you take that, what you're paying in taxes, and you take 40% higher in a value of your property, and you divide the two together, I forget which one's the numerator, which one's the denominator, that would get you, and I use the word equalized, but that would get you an equalized mill rate, which is somewhere around 28.19 for a mill rate. So for this year, say your property value, your real estate goes up 40%. So you have a property that is $250,000, it's going to go up to $350,000. If you want to figure out how much taxes you would be paying or what the mill rate should be, so that you end up in an even keel, it would be somewhere around 28. That would then be the new basis with which the town would then calculate that. Your taxes wouldn't change, your taxes would be level, but now you're starting at a lower mill rate because your assessed values are much higher. Does that make sense?
It does, because that's what's happened in most towns.
Yes, that's what happens. And sometimes if taxes go up a little bit, you won't come down to that same base level where your mill rate would be. Because you can't keep your mill rate up at the level and have your assessments go up. You would have a huge tax dollar increase. Right. You have to equal it. You have to kind of equal it out, and you start at that, and then you look at what the increase is in the next year's budget. And that's where it would not come down to that equalized value.
Thank you. I think that answers my question, and I totally believe that these guys need a good place to work. It's not fair that they're working with the way they are.
I just wanted to publicly thank the police department. Not only do I respect them because my brother's connection and the work I've done with police departments here and in New York, you've come to my rescue on several occasions, whether it be accident, illness, or whatever, and you all responded incredibly quickly, and you're kind, and I wanted to thank you publicly. Thank you so much.
Question, comment, or here?
How you doing? Rich King, Jan Court, Terryville. Retired law enforcement for a while. People don't understand too, the size of the facility, that's for growth. The town grows, more officers per shift. You need space for lockers, put your personal belongings. You need the area for showering, for decontamination of a chemical agent. You ever been sprayed, you ever used it, uniform ever gets muddy, you gotta change, you gotta shower on site. You need a break room. Shouldn't sit in a car or at a desk that 5 people share. The surface hasn't probably been cleaned in 6 months. You know what I mean? A little break room? Can I get a trash can? Can I get a little gym area? Come on, the town's gonna increase. I mean, the size is gonna increase. That's what it is. Unless you've, been there, done that. You gotta think, it's not just a holding area. Everything's gotta be secured properly. It doesn't, it deteriorates, case down the road where he's just sitting there, it's no good. And everybody's gonna blame the police. Well, give them the equipment, increase the morale, you increase retention, you keep good people, end of story.
My name is Vinnie Klimas. I live at 5 Coral Drive. And I have a 2-dimensional response today. First, a professional one. I would like to thank the chief and the police department who does a lot of work with us at Kozinski Park. And you've done an excellent job. You help all the residents, you help the staff. So I thank the police department for the professionalism that they provided and the police commission. I also want to thank the people here, the Public Facilities Committee, the mayor, the town council, and the other members that are here, who work very, very hard. Many of these people here are volunteers to bring forth the needs of the community to the community. And I think the police are packed like sardines, and they need professional environments to work professionally to be more productive. But I think in the end, all of us here can vote yes or no if you bring it to bond. So all the hard work that the police department work every day, the public facilities, the police commission itself, the town council, and the mayor working for the betterment of our community. They work hard every single day, could do it at the vote. I'm going to vote yes, and I would recommend everybody to vote yes, because they can't work in a sardine can. They just can't. They need a professional environment. So I thank everybody to working side by side, shoulder to shoulder, to bring forth this very needed public project. And I also think we need to vote yes for the roads, because the more roads we have since I grew up, there's more roads to be repaired. So I would highly recommend to vote yes. And most importantly, I thank all the groups working together every day, day in and day out, side by side, to bring forth these community groups, these community needs. And it's up to us to vote yes or no. I'm going to vote yes.
We do have showers here. We just keep files in them though. It's okay. But we're not kidding. That's where we hold the files, is in the shower.
Kathy Pascas for Air Drive Terryville. I'd like to hear from Sergeant Lanning. He's been standing there and I think he has a lot to say. Yes, but I want to hear from you as someone out on the road. I'd like to hear from you.
So I've been here 11 years, and I'd say guys that have been here 11 years before me have always been told, oh, we're getting a new PD, we're getting a new PD. I remember walking into that PD at 10 years old with my father to visit the dispatcher, and it looks exactly the same today, now that I'm 43 years old, young, I mean. But if any of you want to go for a walk-in, after this, we could go over there. It'll take you about 2 minutes. You guys don't have time tonight, come in 24/7, we'll bring you back. As long as there's not a prisoner in there, you guys are more than welcome to come to our establishment, or lack thereof.
And just kind of tell us some of the things that are hard for the department.
So, like the gentleman over there was talking about evidence and eating at your desk. So for me to you away, Kathy, is farther away than where I eat, and you'd be processing fentanyl, heroin, because we got to test it for court. So all that has to do is get airborne, go into my food, and we've already had one officer get exposed last summer, chief.
Yes.
And he was out for a month and a half. So it's pretty disgusting in there. Like Anne-Marie said, we have filing cabinets in the locker room, or it should be in the bathroom, in the shower. And you have 4 guys coming in for shift, and you have to take turns. You have one in, one out. Pretty bad. Anyone have any questions specifically for me? I could answer some. Okay. Thank you.
Anyone want to make a comment on this section? We'll come around again because we got to do the roads portion, but any other comment? Okay. Now we'll start with the road section, Carl.
Thanks, Bob. Appreciate it.
All right, let's start all over again. All right. I appreciate everyone hanging in there. I know it's a long night, but we're happy with the turnout. So anything on the road? Name and address.
Christian Russell, Prospect Street, Terryville. This question is for Mr. Johnson or anyone else who would know. So you spoke about working with the gas utilities for work being done on Prospect Street. Do you have a timeline for that? I know Prospect and High Streets currently have water mains being replaced.
That's, yeah, Burnham, the whole Burnham Street area is where the gas company is gonna be going into. Connecticut Water is doing Prospect Street, and all they're doing right now is temporary paving. And they're gonna give, what they're gonna give the town is what's called fee in lieu of. We're allowed to say, hey, don't pave your half of the road. We're gonna take that money and see what money we have, and we're gonna pave the road and fix some sidewalks, because they're gonna owe us for some of those sidewalks that broke. So we've been talking to them. They have not sent the amount, the check they're gonna write to us yet, but it's part of their bonding. So when we met out with them a couple weeks ago, I was there with the highway superintendent. He recommended we take that money and we'll see how this year goes with operations. And then see if we can mill and repave most of Prospect Street at least, because there's a lot of stuff going on. That whole area up on Haas. And then there's also some drainage in the corner of High Street and Prospect Street extension that he wants to look at, so.
Okay, and I think you touched on what the second part of my question was. So what determines when the town will address sidewalks and curbs? One example would be Orchard Street, which was done by the town with new sidewalk. And you mentioned in your plan for the bonding, Beach Avenue. So my question is, when does the town take responsibility for sidewalks and curbing versus passing that on to the homeowners?
We typically, what we're trying to do now is connectivity. So we do a sidewalk, we try to do a whole segment. We're trying to concentrate on roads right now. I know with the downtown revitalization, we did Allen Street, we did sidewalks on Allen Street, part of the project. So connectivity, we're doing beach down the South Main because the state's doing Agni in that part of South Main. So that would be doing connectivity instead of doing just sections around town. It would, because it costs more, what's called mobilize, get the guys out there, do one little section, then pack everything up, clean it up, go somewhere else. So we're doing one whole beach Ave. It's, these are economies of scale, so.
Just to add on to what Carl was saying, there has been some discussion about potentially in future budgets, trying to put a capital line item for sidewalk repair. That hasn't happened yet through the budget process, but that has been an ongoing discussion. We do have a lot, just like roads, there's a lot of sidewalks around town too that have disintegrated. So I think to get a little bit more specific on your question, when the town goes and does a big project like that, typically the sidewalks would be included in that versus just a quick patch or those kinds of things. So if we're just in there patching an area, we may not do the whole sidewalk, but if we're going to bond, if we're going to do a large project, we typically try to include the sidewalks in that project area to be redone.
And then this last question may be for Anne Marie or anyone who can answer. So in the projections, you mentioned, projecting out the cost of debt service, and I believe it went out till 2030. We heard about some projected bonding that we would need for sewage treatment. We heard about downtown revitalization. One thing that we heard about early was that studies were done regarding town hall, and potential closure of a school and relocation, et cetera. So, and I guess this is for anyone, particularly Mr. Mayor, what other bond expenditures or additional debt service has the town forecasted taking out in the next 10 years? I think we acknowledge roads would be on a continual rolling basis as we complete one project. We move on to others. But what other large capital expenditures do we predict bonding for over the next 10 years or so?
As of now, the two big projects that we talk about in the police station and potentially the WPCA and then going back for roads, I don't know of any other major projects that are realistic within the next 5 years. I don't want to project more than that because, you know, things can happen, but certainly within the next 5 years, those would be the two major ones. Once we get to the time for a referendum on the WPCA, you may, depending on how these projects go, see more for roads. But again, right now, that'd be what we're looking at. You know, if there's a change, you know, in local governance, you never know what they may decide. But as far as we're looking at, these would be the projects that we're focused on: police station, WPCA, and roads. As far as the downtown revitalization, the funding for that was actually put into our budget this year. So we're not looking to bond for that, anything with that. So the local match was put into the operating budget in capitals.
Marcia Moran, 13 Silver Street in Terryville. Mayor Kilduff and I spoke on the phone just recently, and I didn't see it raised tonight about when you said the downtown, the North Main Street, the horrific town green and entering onto North Main Street and exiting off of North Main Street onto Route 6. It's horrific. If you've ever come from Fisher, I live on a dead end in the morning and I am behind the school buses trying to come on and leave North Main Street onto Route 6 up to the Plymouth. It's horrific the way these children are bouncing around on the school buses. I've never had children in the school system here, but I have a concern with that. And I know that project is supposed to have started and complete in 2026, and I don't think that's going to happen. Also, heading up toward Plymouth, which we talked about, on Park Street, the school buses turn right to go to Plymouth Center, but then they continue to Park Street and they go up by the church and they park at the church parking lot. There is a massive hole where there's curbing taken out and it's like a dirt ditch that the right rear tire of the school buses go down into. And once again, these children are just jostled everywhere. And I don't know if it's part of owning of the road area or if it's part of the church responsibility. But those two projects I'm very concerned about, and I'm wanting to know. I didn't see it raised here tonight, so I'm concerned.
As far as the Route 672 project, Route 672, Route 6 Acme Avenue realignment, we did have, at our special town council meeting last night, we did have representatives from the DOT that came in and gave a presentation to the council and those present. They are planning on starting construction October, I believe they said 13th of this year. Unfortunately, they originally said it was going to take a year. It now looks like it's going to be 2 years, so fall of 2027. However, I will say, we kind of got a second bite at the apple with that one. With the original project, it was just what it was. They didn't do any landscaping. They didn't do any improvements to our streetscape. But when the project unfortunately stalled due to engineering errors, they came back to us, and I will give the DOT a lot of credit. They were willing to work with us to see how they could improve our downtown. And with that, we got additional landscaping, additional beautification features. Our entire streetscape is going to be extended all the way to the library. New sidewalks, we're going to do a stamped concrete where instead of the brick, it's going to be stamped concrete. It'll look very similar all the way up to create a downtown that looks and feels similar and is continuous all the way down.
Is that V going to continue to be there?
No. So that V will go away. That is the purpose of the project. So that North Main Street will still come out perpendicular to Agnew Avenue. And that's done, I believe last night they said they had 36 accidents in that area over the course of, I think it was 2 years. So that was a dangerous intersection. That's why they took the old Austin House down. Unfortunately, another historical landmark that had to be taken down. But it really is gonna improve sightlines, and I do believe it will improve our downtown tremendously. Unfortunately, it's just taking a very long time. And with that pothole, we will go out and take a look at it and make sure if it's ours, we'll take care of it.
They also added a lot of on-street parking.
That's true too.
Yep.
Any other comments on road? Oh, okay, sure.
Randall 6 Night Lane, in terms of, now you know why I'm standing it. You said, I'm gonna use your words, it's one of the worst roads in town. And I fully understand why you're taking the $6 million and fixing the other ones. My question is, where in our grand plan does 6 Night Lane and those other 4 or 5 roads fit in?
So the plan is, whenever we go to referendum with this project, once the projects are done, that could be a potential road that we look at if there are some surplus funds. If not, that is on the list along with Keegan Road when we go to the WPCA referendum. That'll be. That'll be, yeah, correct. And the reason why Keegan isn't on that now is because it would have added such an entire cost. Exactly. So the plan, at least from my perspective, would be to try to package those two together potentially in the next referendum with the WPCA, because I do anticipate potentially adding on another road package with that. Yeah. Well, we'll have to discuss that when we get to it, but thank you. Any other?
Matt Kozakowski, 45 Fountainhead Road. Quick question, just clarification, is Fountainhead and Tumblebrook, are those reclaims or replacement?
That's full depth reclamation and under drains.
Okay, are you overlaying on top? Are you doing a reclaim and then an overlay?
We're reclaiming and then it's gonna be inch and a half. Yeah, it's gonna be a full.
Has there been any grading study? I know the corner of Tumblebrook and Fountainhead usually becomes a pond you can almost fish in at certain points. There's a lot of drainage problems in that area.
Part of it is redoing that whole drainage pond. There's supposed to be a whole drainage basin right there in the corner. And we're gonna clear that whole thing out, rip-wrap it. Hopefully make it a little deeper so that it can handle the heavier storms we have now. It goes from no rain till 5 inches of rain and nothing now. So things flood and then they disappear, but it's that heavy, that volume you get with the velocity, and it causes a lot of wear and erosion. So it's gonna be full depth. We're doing the under drains. We put a lot of money in for under drains. We're replacing those old falling apart light posts with aluminum. That's part of that 85,000. We're gonna be putting in some replacing those old telephone poles that are half eaten, and put aluminum light poles in. And markings, and if need be, we might need to put in some speed tables somewhere on and that would be part of that regrading too, because you get a high spot and a low spot, and then that's one of the reasons we're doing that high volume area down by Preston and Fountainhead Crestview. We extended it out under the operations budget. So we're doing that section to carry it out there because that's a big pond there too.
Okay, thank you. And then one just quick last one. With all this paving work, has there been any coordination with further utility infrastructures? What I don't want to see is we do this work and then a year down the road, we're cutting it and then throwing a patch down.
Yeah, and when I came on board, it's one of the things, the pet peeve. So talking anytime Connecticut Water Design talks to us, like I said, the Eversource gas, he originally was gonna do it this year, and I kept on him saying, when are you gonna do it? Because I'll include it in a package here so I can get that whole road paved back there. And he said, we won't be doing it till maybe spring of 26 now, so. You know, I'm waiting, I do keep in track of them, Connecticut Water, I've been meeting with her, the design girl there, all the time, and I just met with them on Torrey Crossing. Trying to prepare that with the site utility meeting, so yeah, everybody. Even I get a hold of Frontier once in a while, and I'll be able to talk to them what they're doing, so.
Yeah, thank you.
Could I ask about North Street? Is
part of the proposal.
311 North Street, are you gonna be doing something with North Street? I saw it show up on the proposal.
Yeah, it's called the SIPR. We got all kinds of different ways to treat asphalt. That one is, if I've never ever seen it, it basically, it's a train, we call it a train, but they'll chew up the asphalt, they mill it, and then they'll add binder, which is tar and different materials to it, maybe add some more asphalt. Then the back of the machine rolls it like an asphalt machine, and then behind it comes the roller, so it's all in one constant motion. You save a lot of money because you're doing it all at one time, but you can only do it on real long runs, so that's why we're doing all. So he'll go through and he'll patch and do some things with drainage first. Because yeah, once they start going, it's not like they gotta do they'll do one whole lane and then come back and do another whole lane, so.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, all right. Thank you, everybody, for your comments and questions tonight.
Mayor, can I just ask, does anybody have questions on all the super fun numbers that I went through?
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right. You're right, I did not come back to, did the council have any questions on the roads? I have so.
So just so everybody knows, I know that the road study has been put up on the website. I know that the road presentation that Carl did is up on the website. Right now, the presentation that's up on the website for the police department is the presentation that we did in January. We will, after this, give us a couple days. We'll get the updates from tonight for the police station for the financing piece of it and the rest of the updated presentation on the website. Trying to think if there was anything else on that. No, I think that was it. So give us a couple days. So if you still have that orange postcard, you can scan that QR code. It'll take you to the bond package place on the website, or just go to townofplymouth.gov. Are we .gov now, Mayor? PlymouthCT.gov, our website. Right in one of the buttons on the top or in the middle of the screen, it's the bottom right button. It says 2025 bond proposal, something like that. Underneath that is all the information for the police station and for the roads. And I'm just going to reiterate, as Sergeant Latimer said, if anybody wants a tour of the police station, please stop in there. It's such a fun place to go into, and you're going to want to really stay in there for a long time. So thank you. Thank you, everybody, for coming tonight. We really appreciate everybody attending.
And I also want to thank, once again, Mike and Anne Marie for their hard work and Carl and his presentation. It's not easy putting together these things for a public hearing, trying to anticipate all the questions you may get. And I think they did a great job. So I'd like to give all of them a round of applause. Thank you. We're just waiting on one council member who had to step out, and we'll move on. Yeah, you're right. We can just adjourn the public hearing at this point and move on to the special council meeting. All right. Well, I only have three. No, Ron walked up too, so I have two. You're right. We can just adjourn it. Yeah. I have a motion by Joe. Second by TJ. All those in favor of adjourning this public hearing?
Aye.
Thank you.